5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Bonifay Banter Podcast.
All right, guys. Welcome to episode 23 of the Bonifay Banter.
24.
Oh, is it 24?
24.
Time flies.
Let's go with
And
that.
it is the new year to everyone out there. Happy New Year's to everyone out there. Hope y'all had a good one. And we're in for a good episode right now. We got Uncle Rusty in the studio today. This is my mom's older brother. Welcome to the studio, Rusty. We're excited to have you on.
Thank you. I appreciate being here, but you could have refrained from the older and just said your brother's brother.
That's true. I should have not been so detailed.
Yeah,
on
could have
that.
sugarcoated it a little bit. Maybe the handsome
There
brother.
you go.
There it is.
And I'll add that kind of detail. You keep it up here.
So, what do you think of the studio? This is pretty cool, huh?
I am really impressed. Parks showed me this before and showed me doing another one of your uncles.
Oh yeah.
This is Uncle's Banter, so this is episode 2 of the Uncle's Banter. We did have Uncle Paul, my dad's little brother.
Yeah.
But the mom's side of the family is a little bit different than the Bonifays.
Yeah.
I think we can all agree on that one.
I was going to say, I don't think you can get somebody more opposite than Uncle Paul. Like, it's definitely.
Well, mom always said that y'all are military brats. Y'all are raised on the Air Force base. Our grandfather served in World War II. And Rusty, you served in Vietnam. The first Desert Storm. So you've been in the military. A lieutenant colonel is what Colonel.
I've told him that several times.
He says
And
Lieutenant Colonel every time. I think he thinks Lieutenant Colonel's
better?
more.
Colonel.
Colonel's better. Okay.
Oh, much better.
Yeah, Colonel Napier.
Which shows how much I served in the military. Absolutely -4.
Well.
I had a question. Who do you think would have done, or you got more out of it going to the military, me or Parks?
Parks probably would not have made it. You, on the other hand, would have been very successful.
All right.
I don't think Shane would have survived past
I don't think I would have
boot
either.
camp.
No,
But I probably wouldn't have registered.
Both of you would survive boot camp. But at some point in time, Parks would have done something that would have gotten him in trouble.
I don't know. I could have popped off to one of my superiors pretty easy. They would ask me to do something. I'd be like, I ain't doing that.
Yeah, but I think you'd have made excuses and gotten away with it.
All right. I like
You're
that.
cleverer than Parks.
Thank you. I'll take that.
He's blunter and more positive than you, but he's also blunter and more positive.
I guess the real question would be, I don't think any of us are enlisting to the military, but if there was a draft, I guess which one of us is shooting ourselves in the foot so that we don't have to go to war?
I think, Parks, you would need multiple bullets in the revolver and shoot yourself in a number of places so you didn't have to.
I would have blamed it on my bad knees. That would get you out of there, right?
I think you would disappear to Bali or something. You'd be gone.
I don't think after your misspent youth that either of you would have ever qualified for the draft.
That's safe to say.
They'd see the amount of knee surgeries just
I know
between
it.
the two of us.
How
and
desperate is the military right now?
I'm impressed. I think of some of my military and the times we were in combat and everything and the bullets came flying. I don't think I was anywhere near in the pain and the suffering that the two of you had to go through with multiple knee operations.
I don't know about that one.
Well, I do.
I mean, I don't have PTSD. I'm not saying you do, but I know a lot of veterans probably do. But I don't think you get that from an ACL surgery.
Yeah, and I don't think that
I kind of like the anesthesia. To tell you the truth.
Yeah, and I think you're putting a higher price tag on the knee surgeries. They're bad, but they're not that bad. They're not bullets whizzing by your head bad. You know.
Yeah. Well, anyway.
What was it? I was saying this. We don't got to get straight into like the Vietnam and stuff, but like I was trying to tell this to someone the other day. It had to be so crazy. We can't even wrap our head around getting drafted. Can you imagine doing what you do? You're fresh out of high school. You're like, let's just live college, summer of whatever, and then they're like, no, you get drafted. Was that like? I mean, you were raised in the military. You probably that you didn't experience this, but that had to be crazy. Just a random kid just get handpicked.
Well, my intention after graduating from college was to go to law school. I made an error. I applied to very highfalutin law schools, Duke, Tulane, Rice, Vanderbilt, and was sure that I'd get accepted. I was turned down by all 4 schools. I was unintimidated. I would get in. So I said, I'll just reapply. There's one thing I forgot. Vietnam and the United States Air Force had another idea of where I was going to serve.
They already had a written plan for old Rusty Napier.
and they let me know I could be an enlisted man lugging a rifle through the rice paddies, or I could fly over them. And I said, I'll fly over
I'll
them.
fly over them. That seems a little bit
Boots on
less
ground
wet.
or boots above ground?
Yeah, less wet. Going through the rice paddies
I wouldn't say
seems-
boots. I'd say ass above ground.
Man,
Yeah.
Rusty, you came down. We did a little Christmas kind of night because he lives up in the Panhandle of Florida, so we don't get to see him all that often. So when you came down, I was glad that you came down, and you got to golf with Shane.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that. But then last night, so y'all went golfing yesterday, and then we came back, and Rusty brought back pretty much our whole lineage from our mom's side of the family. Like, we were looking at photos of our great grandfather. Like, we had
photos from like 1840, 1830s and stuff like that. Like, yeah,
It was
like
very
7,
cool
8
to see.
generations.
very cool to see, Rusty, that you know, like, you can actually articulate that and kind of point it out, and kind of, not to say everything was you're batting 100, but I think it was more than we would ever begin to know, and it was pretty cool to see.
As I said the other night, the stories and tales that I told about our ancestors are probably only about 50% right, simply because I don't have all the detail. I don't know any more than the sketchy stuff that I showed you.
No, but I mean, even just that little bit, and whether it's 50% right, it's 50% more that we know. You know, it's like whether the details were actually exactly what you were saying, but just the knowledge of that's what was happening, and this is who that was. Like, and you didn't know just your dad's mom and dad and his mom and dad. Like, you knew your mom's family, you knew your dad's family, and both sides of those trees and how they separated their grandparents, both sides of that whole thing. Like, the knowledge of the family tree was crazy.
It was pretty sick to see. And we didn't even really know any of that. So we've heard of, you know, our great grandma who lived to be like 104, and then so
What you missed.
it's a long time back.
What you missed was that great grandmother sitting down a 5, 6, 7-year-old every time we came to Chattanooga, and for hours talking to me about all this stuff.
Oh, so
Now, your mother was uninterested in any of this, and Betty just didn't have any time. I was kind of captivated by the fact that this old lady would sit down with me and try to explain things that were beyond my ability to understand. But even still, it was interesting.
that's cool. I'm gonna bring this up right now. This is one of the, and you brought some some artifacts along with the story too.
Oh yeah, this.
This is tell them what this is, Rusty.
That is
This is ER Betterton's. Let me
E.R.
see if I remember.
Betterton.
Yeah, but you
All right,
quiz me.
go
This
ahead.
is ER Betterton's, which is my great grandfather, great grandfather.
I think it's 5 greats.
5 greats.
5
No,
grades.
Great,
so, but
great,
this is
great,
this is a
great.
this is a beaver-tailed hat that he wore back in the day.
Beaver
And-
skinned.
beaver skin, not beaver tail, but beaver skin hat, and this is probably from 1890s. Is what we kind
I
of
don't
found.
know when he got the hat. All I know is that he wore one of these hats, whether it was that one or another one.
I mean, I think it was. I think from when we did the bottle, when we showed the bottle, and I googled that was saying that it was mid to late 1800s. So if that's ER Betterton, then it's probably in that same late 1800s.
And this is actually the whiskey company that he started. So this is a whiskey bottle probably from 1890 or maybe
Anywhere from, anywhere from
1900s, and it says
1850.
ER Betterton and Co. Distillers, Chattanooga, Tennessee, and that's what's kind of the story on that one. ER went to he went to war. He fought in the Civil War.
He was a soldier in the Civil War. He fought for the Confederacy, the losers, and
Didn't age well.
he fought with his 3 brothers, as I understand it. There may have been 4 brothers. One brother was too young to go to war, but the 3 brothers, I believe this is the story, but again, who knows? Anyway, in one of the battles in Virginia in the last year of the war, ER was captured, and he was imprisoned somewhere up around Annapolis, Maryland, where the Naval Academy is today, but somewhere around there. He was released about 6 months during Reconstruction, about 6 months after the war ended to 8 months after the war.
They just let all the prisoners go.
Well, not all at once, but
Yeah.
yes, they did do that as part of the Reconstruction. He came home and he found his brothers operating a successful still
A whiskey.
whiskey, and he thought he would enter that, but the brothers had already brought the little brother that hadn't gone to war, and the two brothers said there wasn't enough room and there wasn't enough money. They were struggling to make it as it was. That upset, as I understand it, ER, and he simply decided that he would leave the family. So after being imprisoned, he walked away from his family, walked down,
Yeah.
rode in a wagon, a horse, however he got down there, and he moved to Chattanooga, Tennessee. And in order not to starve, he started brewing whiskey because the family had been doing that.
So he kind of knew.
Probably.
He kind of knew how to do it.
They'd probably been doing it for generations. Now they're the history on the Betterton side blurs, so I don't know, but all I know is he ends up in Chattanooga and starts his own liquor company. It becomes extremely successful.
That's really cool. It's crazy that he not only was down and out, went to find his family, walked away from them, and then was like, you know what? I can do this on my own. I don't need this. And then turned it into more successful than what his brothers and them were doing.
Yeah, their family never was that successful up in
And then he hired Lee Motley.
Lem
Motley.
Yeah, Motlow. That's the brewer for Jack Daniels. And he became, I don't know when he was hired. I don't know how old Lem was, but he became the principal brewer. And what is he to me? He's my great.
A lot of greats.
Great. He's three greats or four greats for me. But anyway, he became the manager, so to speak, and he started doing things other than brewing whiskey. But whiskey was the backbone of the company, and Lem Motlow came in and began to brew it. When Prohibition hit years later, Lem Motlow, of course, was out of a job because they had to dissolve the liquor company, and Lem Motlow went up to become Jack Daniels' primary brewer because Jack didn't stop when Prohibition hit. And he was just getting started back then anyway.
That's really crazy.
That's I don't know all the details on Lem Motlow or anything. I do know that Motlow ended up with Jack Daniels. And beyond that, I don't know whether Jack was brewing, not brewing, or how that all happened.
Prohibition would have been good. Can you imagine something being legal that everyone loves, and then all of a sudden the government goes, nope, it's illegal. No one's allowed to drink it. No one's allowed to sell it. No, and everyone's like, we're still going to drink it. We just got to do it in the shadows now and ship it in the shadows. It just seemed like a wild thing to only last for a little while too before.
Yeah, how long did that last? Maybe like 10?
About 10 years.
Yeah.
I don't know for sure.
Still a long time just to make everybody stop drinking and act like that. That's what's going to happen in the whole country. Like, we're all just done. No more than this. Like, that's crazy. Yeah.
I have, having been a historian or an amateur historian, and I have two theories on all that. The first one, that when Prohibition finally was driven out of the place, it probably was because of the Depression. Depression was a depressing time, and that's when Prohibition was lifted. And
So
guess what boozed a false sense of enjoyment?
Yeah.
And that's exactly one of the reasons.
Yeah, that makes a lot of
wasn't the
sense.
overpowering.
It's kind of a Band-Aid for everyone's like morale and mentality kind of.
The other thing, and I think it set women back in lots of terms and being equality under the law, because it was women that pushed Prohibition. Those were the ones that, and a few male preachers, but having said that, women probably, they were the lead echelon in taking the nation into Prohibition.
Huh.
Yeah, but that probably makes a little bit of sense too, because you got that many farmers getting drunk all the time, and
who knows?
They could have probably been laying a
calm
hand.
down. I mean,
they could have been laying
in
a
the
hand
fields all
that's-
day.
yeah.
Like you can't have a cocktail when you get back to the house.
No, but I mean, I think the women were going, "Hey, he just constantly gets drunk and beats me, so we're going to try to get rid of this." And then, not everybody was beating everybody, but I'm just saying they probably were like, "I think if he stops drinking, maybe he'll stop."
Now, despite what you see on the westerns, where you got these ladies in fancy gowns dancing around, and bars up until probably 30s, 40s were primarily male things.
Right.
So you got males going to a bar and
That's
getting
the
drunk,
genre.
and you got women kind of excluded. And what do you think?
Yeah. Getting
Women
I
are
like
gonna wanna do?
how they like.
They
they're
don't
like-
want to get in the bar. They want to stop the drinking.
I like
Yeah.
how like after prohibition, they're like, okay, women, we're gonna bring alcohol back, but we're gonna let you vote in a few years. How about,
Yeah.
like
Well, look at it this way.
Well, the conversation at least.
You boys have become successful and done while you are. But let us say prohibition had never stopped, and your great grandfather E.R. Betterton had continued making booze. Do you know how well off you'd be this day?
Oh,
that'd be freaking sweet.
yeah. I could imagine me being a bootlegger running around.
I can see you more as a bootlegger than in the military.
Yeah, that makes a lot more sense. I could definitely, because I'd even like, I would get into either, stilling some whiskey, doing that, or even just like doing some sketchy cross country, put it in the bottom of the carriage. Let's go through the midnight run this thing all the way up.
You're
up
making it too complicated. Let's put another spin on it. The booze was legal and would never have been, if it hadn't have been for prohibition, your family would probably still be in it. Assumed everything had trickled down like it did, but let's say it did, you wouldn't be doing any of that. You'd be sitting back with a lot of money, doing as little as you could possibly
We would actually
do.
own the wakeboard boats.
That's a possibility.
we would have enough money to buy it.
That's possible. You're
that would be
absolutely
nice.
correct.
Yeah.
We don't know any of that. It's all
It's definitely a good hypothetical, and I like the hypothetical because I could imagine us being a whiskey heir. What are you? Oh, we're Jack Daniels'
Jack Daniels.
great grandsons.
Yeah. Have you heard of Jack Daniels? Yeah, that's
that's-
grandfather.
Well, I might not go that far.
No, but if it never, who knows?
But yeah, that's pretty sick. And the beaver skin hat, it's so old, so amazing, and just comes from one of the guys that really put our whole family on the map.
I'm gonna put it up before we break it or spill
Yeah,
on it.
that's a good call.
One of several.
One of several.
Did it. He's just one, but he's unique.
Yeah.
They all were unique.
The photos like that you showed were like the quality of them. It was just because it was like military photos, but like even it seems like even back in
Some
the
of them
1800s,
were.
you could tell they had a lot of money because like they're getting like photos from like 1904, and it's like a high quality photo of a baby pushing like a little mini wheelbarrow from behind down like a barn alleyway or something. Like it was like a professional photographer, you could tell, like took some of these photos back.
Well,
in the
what were
day.
those others? Those that were tin looking.
Yeah, they
What are
looked
those?
almost like slates or like this. I don't know exactly, but yeah, it was like this metallic like sheen. Like I don't know. It almost looks like it was printed on. It's like a different type of paper or whatever.
Those go
but-
back predating the Civil War and around the Civil War time. I don't know when we went to paper photography. And all
Yeah.
that.
No, but some of the photos, like even just seeing photos of the guy that Parks is actually named after, which is our great grandfather Parks.
Yours, my grandfather.
Your grandfather, our great grandfather. But
Your
yeah, there
mother's
was,
grandfather.
but yeah, I mean it was, and there's a picture of Parks when he's like 4 or 5 years old, like the wagon that you were saying, like pushing his wheelbarrow
the
from
front
behind,
shot with the
and the
same-
front shot
yeah.
with his grandmother and stuff like that. Like
And then shots of him in World War I, like sitting there in his uniform, like that was some
so-
badass
yeah.
shots, man.
It's cool. It's cool. Thanks for the history lesson yesterday. And we literally went through and filmed all of this for like 2 hours, 3 hours of just.
You said it was going to
through
take a while.
It was a
sit
lot
down,
of
boys. This
photos.
is going to take like about 3 to
Yeah.
4 hours.
Yeah, we were going to do the podcast yesterday, but we did this thing and it took 3 hours. And we're like, we don't have time to go back in there and keep talking because Rusty just talked.
Yeah, and,
killed
and,
it.
and again, I caution you. The photographs kind of speak for themselves, but the stories that went with the photographs could only be 50%.
Hey.
I
we-
didn't. Most of those people were gone when I.
Yeah. Well, we documented it and we have you telling your 50% of the story. So it's good.
50%
But
of the
every one of the stories I told you about your mother are absolutely,
Absolutely.
true.
hands down. Shout out Betty B, dude.
Yeah.
So you actually, before y'all we did the history lesson last night. You went golfing with Shane yesterday, and
I suffered through some pain. Yes.
you suffered. Is it hurts every time you golf nowadays?
Oh, no.
Can we tell
playing with playing with your brother?
Yeah,
That's
painful.
painful.
You
That's
gotta-
painful. That
you gotta
takes
listen to him.
You
Just
got to have patience.
test his bits out on you the whole time.
No, we had a great time. And don't act like I didn't take that front nine. I did take the front nine.
You played better than I remembered you playing. I was impressed.
Yeah, but
You're
then
not-
you kicked my ass pretty good
How many
on the
shots
back
did
nine.
he give you on the front?
It was the three aside. Three aside, but I beat him by one, so I only needed two of those, and we would have tied. But on the back nine, you beat me by a lot.
On
so.
the 11th hole, I looked over and Payne's laying in the Payne.
It's
Payne. He was under
Payne.
Payne. Shane is laying in the fairway on his back with his legs up. He gave up at that
Gave
point.
up, just
Never hit
done.
another shot.
Really?
No, it was all in the face. That's it. That's the feeling he has just from the face. I had bad shots, and he was just like, "Yeah, this is going to be a triple, very easy."
He gave you he gave us a full body metaphor of what your
Ye-
face looked like.
Yeah, it was. But yeah, it definitely fell apart on the back nine. So, but it was still a lot
you
of fun.
you gave him 6 strokes on the whole thing, and you still got him, huh?
I thought.
That's how good, ladies and gentlemen. That's how good fucking Rusty is
Yeah.
at golf. Like Rusty's got a
No, that's how evil I am. I thought I could give him 5 shots aside, 10, and still beat him handily.
Yeah.
Well, he surprised me, particularly on that front side.
But Shane's been playing some golf. Shane's been putting in the time, the effort. No real practice
No
or
real
lessons
practice.
or
That's the
anything. But
problem.
like,
But now on the front, I did make 3 lucky putts that really won it for me. I made one really long one and 2 crazy little sliders that it was a coin flip on if I was making either of them. So
Well, when we were hitting balls before we teed off, I noted that he was killing the ball and hitting it very straight. And I thought, this kid's really come a long way since the last time I played with him, 10 years ago or whenever it was. And I thought, he'll be tough. I'm going to cut him down in those strokes.
yeah. But then you saw my back nine and you're
He
like,
ne-
nope, same old Shane.
Well, even on the front, you didn't hit that tee ball anywhere near what you did on the practice
No,
tee.
it was bad. It was bad on the once we got out there. But the range was good.
what did you tell me in the kitchen last night? You go, how old will you? How old will you be before Shane can beat you?
Oh, I thought maybe when I hit 90.
You think you're gonna be 90 years old
He
before
might.
Shane can finally beat you?
Yes, but you still won't beat me.
See, nice burn. Thank you. I thought I was just catching the burns there, but
You think Shane got more of the Napier swing than I got? I got Peter B's. I got the Bonifay swing. He got the Napier swing.
No, actually, you're closer to swinging like Billy T, my father,
Well,
your
like-
grandfather swung.
He was a good
Shane's closer to swinging exactly like I swing it, which is smooth and
Dangerous.
and really nice.
Short and
looking.
dangerous.
Father did not have a good swing. Now, the good news is, Father was determined to win, and that determination made him a winner, not his golf swing.
yeah.
So I'm just mentally
but-
stronger than Shane, more competitive, more.
I don't know about competitive because he wasn't a very good putter, but he got to where he could consistently drive the ball a long way for his age. I mean, for the time, not his age, but from the time he started as a junior player to when he finished. And he simply could produce stuff with a swing that should not have had those results. He was even consistent with a swing that should not at all been consistent.
But he made it all the way to the senior PGA, right?
No, what he made it to was the senior amateur.
Senior
United
amateur
States,
PGA. Yeah.
And he played in 6 of those.
That's cool. That's still really good. To
I've
make a
played in
difference.
1. He played in 6.
Yeah.
That's how good he was. And he was a bad putter. He really wasn't.
Me too.
He hit, well, yes, but you have no talent.
Yeah, right. That was a roast session.
Shots fired.
Damn, dude.
The truth bubbles out. doesn't it?
Yeah. No, that's yeah. There you go. Those are shots fired. Yeah, but I still use some of Grandpa Billy's clubs in my bag. I still have a 60 and a 56 from Grandpa Billy. They're probably
You used that 60 from like 1984.
oh yeah, they're old. They could even be older. They could probably be from the 70s.
Depends upon the ground and the
Bounce or
bounce on the club, the ground on the bottom of the club. That's part of the
Yeah.
bounce, but also the grooves. And obviously, those are newer grips and
Yeah.
all that. But even still,
I've had thoughts about getting them redone. I found a few places I could regroove them and refinish it and stuff like that. I just like them. I like having it in the bag, and I really want to get them stamped too, like engraved, to have like Billy T's name on there. Billy T.
We're
Napier.
getting far afield of anything that would interest anybody except how is Shane's game going to be interesting on a podcast? That's what I need to know.
We go down the golf wormhole here every now and then. I think a majority of our listeners are male, so
but they still probably don't care about my golf game. But we'll get past that.
Well, Rusty always told me, he goes, Parks, you can beat Shane right now because you're more talented with your hands, but Shane has the better golf swing. So enjoy it while it lasts, because the more Shane plays golf, the more he's going to be able to beat you. So enjoy these few rounds. And he was fucking right, man. Like, Shane's been playing so much golf. I mean, I can hardly beat Shane nowadays. I mean, maybe if I get lucky, Shane's off. But you were right, Rusty. You were spot on.
That's pretty good.
Shocker.
Shocker.
It's not the first time I've been right.
Did you ever get to play golf, or Grandpa get to play golf with anyone kind of like famous? Did you ever get to meet like Arnold Palmer back in the day, or any?
I played golf with Arnold Palmer. I don't know if Father did.
You played golf with him?
9 holes.
No shit.
That's really cool.
Damn. What was he like?
Very gentleman. He was really good. What was more impressive, we were at Bay Hill, which the golf course he owned up in Orlando, and we were a add-on group to the usual, call it the money game, but the game that Palmer played in, and Arnold came running out. He'd been doing some work not in the pro shop, but in the club there where he had a big office. He came running out and he said, "Have you all seen this guy he was looking for?" And we said, "Yeah, we think he's in the first group, Mr. Palmer." No one said Arnie. We said Mr. Palmer.
Yeah,
for sure.
And Palmer was past his tour time, but he was still playing occasionally. He'd go out, but more on the senior tour at that point. Anyway, it was back in the 70s. And Arnold drove off, got halfway down the 10th fairway. And by the way, we didn't hit. We were going to let Mr. Palmer go wherever he wanted to go. And he turns around and comes back. And I'll never forget this. And we were a foursome, and of course it's Palmer's course. We could play a 20-some if Mr. Palmer wanted to do it. And Palmer walks up on that tee, and he says, "Okay, boys, I don't have time to get to Tracy," or I think that was the gentleman he was trying to find. And he says, "I need to play 9 holes. I'm going to some such, and I really need to get 9 holes in today. Do you boys mind if I play with you?"
Arnold Palmer.
Yes, sir, Mr. Palmer.
That's cool.
But that's not the last thing or the most exciting thing. And then he says, "Okay." And he goes to Craig and to Scott and to whoever the 4 of us were. And he says, "What's your handicap? What's your handicap? What's your handicap?" I think I was a 2 at the time and all that. So Palmer looks right at us and he says, "Okay, we'll play a 9-hole match for $10. And I thought, well, $10 is a little bit more than I'm used to playing for, but I'm playing Arnold Palmer.
Yeah.
So and he says, and my handicap was for 18 holes. Obviously, I was a 2, I think, at the time. And he says, "I'll give you 2 shots." And he did that to everybody in the group. Then we had one guy that was a scratch player in our group, 0 handicap. And he says, "And to you," he says, "I'll give you 1 shot." Even though,
Yeah.
So off we went. And I'm thinking, my goodness gracious, I'm playing Arnold Palmer. Who would have thought that was ever going to happen in anybody's lifetime?
That is insane.
And we went and played 9 holes. And
how nervous were you? Like swinging? Did you feel
a little bit,
heartbeat?
But he was easy to play with. Palmer is easy. Well, that 9 holes. I can only think of what other people have said about him. And anyway, we played, and he was just like playing with one of the gambling boys, Only he's 60 years old or however Arnold was.
And a legend of all legends.
Yeah, I know. I'm playing with Arnold Palmer. I'm playing on his golf course.
I mean, you might as well be playing with a president or something. Like,
you're right. Actually, it probably was more impressive.
Playing with him than Nixon at the time, yeah.
So anyway, we played 9 holes, and I think I know I didn't collect any money from Arnold, but I think I didn't pay him any. So I think however the bet came out, I think we broke
Might have
even.
pushed. You know?
God, you wish one of you had a camera in your bag, huh? Or some type of some way type
Yeah,
of way
we
to
did.
have a photo.
Nobody in our group was carrying a camera, but the better part, and there, the best part, of course, was I didn't have to pay him. I thought that was the best day of my gambling life.
That you didn't have to come up off the $10.
I didn't have to come off on my 10, but I didn't get 10 from Arnold either.
Yeah.
So then he says, "Come on, boys, we'll go into my office like we always do." And there were most of the rest of the group that had gone on in front were already in his office, and he goes in.
Is this
there.
like the clubhouse kind of?
Clubhouse? Well, yes, it was in the clubhouse, not in the pro shop, but in the clubhouse. He had a pretty substantial office, but I won't say it was cluttered, but it wasn't neat. Kind of like this room. He had a lot of stuff. He had a lot of stuff.
Right.
And he sits down behind his desk, and in comes the barmaid. But no, I can't remember. But somebody came in and said, "Here you are, Mr. Palmer." Didn't even ask him, and it was iced tea, gin, or whatever, and
Lemonade?
Lemonade.
God, respect.
Arnold Palmer,
Arnold-
right in from
It was
Arnold
Arnold
Palmer.
Palmer, and that's what he drank. He really did that. And he says, "What do you boys want?" And all the drinks were on Arnold Palmer.
Oh,
So I did get to get.
that's cool.
I think I had
Arnold
one
Palmer
drink. It was
drinking in
clear.
Arnold.
It was clear to us that this was his country club and all that. And he'd played 9 holes with us, and all 4 of us had a drink, and then we excused ourselves and left the membership.
That's cool.
It's cool.
You guys had to like shut the car door when you got in there and go,
Yeah,
right, dude. Like,
Yeah.
did that just happen? Like, are we like dreaming? Like,
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I
what-
think one of the boys actually beat him.
what year you think that was?
It was in the 70s, so it had
Yeah.
to be after I got out of the Air Force. So it was after 74, 73, whenever. Anyway, somewhere, call it 75. No, it was after 75, probably 76 to 79. Closer to 77, 78.
Yeah.
We're taking up too much time.
That's so
Nah,
cool.
that's really cool.
I can't date things that my 80-year-old mind won't let me do that.
No, that's cool. One of the things that I really loved is me and my wife got to go and we went. What was it, over in Tampa, or where was the your secret? It was the thing like 5 years ago where you were inducted into the Hall of Fame, like the Secret Service Hall of
Hall
Fame.
of Honor.
Hall of Honor.
This is
And
at the headquarters of the Special Forces, right?
United States Special Operations Command at MacDill Air Force Base in their headquarters complex.
It was so amazing because obviously I knew some of what you did in the past, and obviously that you were, a colonel and that you were decorated and all of this, but to see all of these people and the respect and like just this big, ceremony for you and a handful of other people was truly, truly amazing.
I mean, there was 4-star generals there. We were in the war room. Like, this is like something you would see on TV. There's like a global map on the floor. You look up, there's all these computer bays wrapped all the way around. Like, it was like something off of like 24 or like some type of military kind of thing.
Yep.
It felt
Pretty
like
impressive.
you had to check your phone in at the thing, so you
Yeah,
couldn't
you
even take
couldn't go,
photos or anything. But yeah, I mean, like Shane said, we knew that you served in Vietnam, but it was in all this stuff. But it really, we got to see your whole body of work as you're standing up there, kind of getting accoladed. Man, it was really cool to see, Rusty. What?
It was. Even I was impressed. It was, and I'm honored that they saw fit to do that. And
What was? They said 304 Vietnam helicopter missions, or was it something?
well,
I remember some of the.
I can't.
There's a lot. That's a lot.
I think he quoted how many. I had 270 some odd. It wasn't 300. It was 270 some odd combat missions in Vietnam.
I liked what you said. You go. The only bad thing about this is that they put my picture on the wall with all these accolades in a hallway that nobody can walk down because of the clearance. You gotta be like Secret Service to pretty much like walk down this hallway.
It's us little people that got this honor that you get hidden in the cloture of secrecy and all this stuff because it's in the compound. It's very secretive. Now the Medal of Honor winners sit out front in the thing, and you saw 2 or 3 of the boys that have won Medal of Honors with their pictures in that outer room.
That is funny to to get an award for something that nobody's allowed to know of. You know, like
Well, they're allowed to know it.
no,
They're
allowed
just,
to
never
know
be
it,
able to
but
see
it's
this
like the
picture.
secrecy behind it.
they're
It's
just
like,
not allowed to see it.
Yeah, no, it was pretty it's pretty cool though.
So when did your maybe before the military, like so you said that right out of you wanted to become a lawyer, you were studying to you're applying to all these colleges to become a lawyer.
Studying might be a stretch too far.
Well, you know,
Desiring might have been the better way to look at it.
even thinking about it a little bit could be a type of study, you know.
Yeah, maybe, but I had to do something. I'm getting out of college, and my father wasn't going to pay any more. And even though I was on scholarship, he still had to foot quite a bit of the bill, some of the bill, about 40% of the bill. But anyway.
Was the military something you knew because grandfather's
Well,
like such a...
the one thing Father Billy T said to me, or did, or made it understanding that he says, you can go to any college you want to go to that you can get in and that we can afford, or that you get a scholarship to with one caveat. And I said, what's that, Father? He says, you're to take ROTC. Now, he's a military man, and he wanted me to have ROTC. And I won't say begrudgingly. I said, well, you're footing the bill for if I don't get the full scholarship, you're footing the bill. So I can live with that. That seemed like a trade or not a trade, but that I was willing to make. So I went through Sewanee and I went to ROTC. Then I got out as you pick up your story, Parks. I got out. I've graduated, and I'm thinking, well, I'll go to law school. I'm smart enough. I got the law boards. I can go. Well, evidently, those 4 universities that I applied to didn't think I was all that brilliant because they didn't take me. And the next thing I know is there's a draft salutation. Greetings, you have been inducted.
Does that mean you're going?
Yes. And so I'm to report to the draft board. So I called up ROTC and I said, what's the issue? I thought I was on a deferment. And they said, well, you were till you didn't get into law school. I said, well, yeah, but I'm going to get in.
Yeah, no, you're not.
No, this is it. You got one shot at it. And I said, I don't think I read that between the lines, but okay. So then I said, well, okay, I don't want to get drafted. I said, call the draft board, or and let them know that I'm going on active duty with my Air Force.
What did you feel like when you saw that envelope and you knew that you were like you got drafted? Like, was that a panic kind of feeling, or were you kind of excited? Like being a military kind of like raised?
Very troubling.
Really?
Yeah, because I didn't know why I was getting it. I said, there's some mistake.
Well, maybe your dad's a colonel. Maybe.
No, that didn't have anything to do with it. It was something's happened here. This isn't supposed to happen. I'm immune from this. Well, no, I wasn't.
You really didn't think that you were going to serve in the military at all growing up, being that your dad had the military career that he had?
I had no intention of doing it. I had no desire to do what he did. I saw it. I lived it.
Yeah. You were like, I'm not living on the Air Force base.
I knew he had a great career and enjoyed it and all that, and it was a great place to grow up. I'm not saying negativism. I just didn't have any desire. I didn't have any desire to fly airplanes in the Air Force, and I damn well knew I didn't have any desire to lug a rifle, fire an artillery piece, or sail on a godforsaken ship. So
they pretty much you had the option of being on the ground in the rice fields or in the Air Force.
Not really an option. You don't know what they're going to do to you when they draft you. You could be in the rice field. You could have been in Germany too.
You don't get to check a box. You go, I want to be Navy. I want to be Army. I want to be Air Force. No.
The Army owns the draft. Now the Marines own a portion of the draft, and I don't know what the percentages are, 10% or something, guys. And you don't get a choice. A kind of lottery system. Okay, you're going to the Marines. You 4 are going to the Army, and then off. Whatever the percentage was back in those days, and we don't have a draft, so I don't know what it is. But I know the Marines got some, and I started to say, now nobody's drafting the Navy or the Air Force people, and that was all voluntary. But that's the way it was set up in that time.
So you were able to wiggle your way into the Air Force, huh?
Well, I had that ROTC commission, so it wasn't real hard, and I just said, okay, I give. You're not going to defer. And I needed a deferment from the Air Force if I was going to continue to try not to get in.
Right.
And so I deferred and said, okay, I'll go on active duty. I can go to law school after I finish my whatever. And then I learned, well, that's not quite true. I already knew it, but now, although I'm starting to think, when I went in with the commission, I was in for 8 or 9 years. I can't remember what it was. And 10 years if I went to flight training. And I was going to flight training. I wasn't going to go in the Air Force and not fly. So that meant I had 10 years. Now, after Vietnam and everything and whatnot, they cut that all back to much lower numbers. And in my case, about 4 years, 9 months, or 4 years, 8 months, I was allowed to exit the Air Force. Then I got back in. I got redrafted.
Couldn't get enough. Couldn't get enough, huh?
I'm not sure it was
You got
me.
you got redrafted, so you
Not redrafted.
You kind of put yourself.
What happened was.
It sounds like bad luck.
What happened was I got married, and I needed a job, and I'd been flying for the Air Force Reserve. I was still flying airplanes and going all over the world, some of the best flying I ever did, but it was reservists, and I could write my own ticket. I could fly for 2 weeks, stand down. If I needed the money, I'd ask them, "Do you need somebody to fly an airplane to such and such?" And they'd let me. Anyway, it worked out. And but that's still reserve, and that's not active duty. Though I wore a uniform and did all that only when I was flying or at the base. So anyway, at the end of in 1979, I'd gotten married, and I was looking around. I was working with my father in the golf club repair business, and what I determined from the golf club repair business that you really needed to be an artisan, and you needed to craft and make clubs fit and do a lot of things. And I just don't have those skills. Now, I could put a shaft in and some other stuff like that, but I wasn't going to do it. And I don't think Billy T, I think he knew I wasn't the best. And
off you go again.
And I also thought, quite frankly, it was very boring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, after Vietnam, I'm sure everything's a little boring. Huh?
Yeah, but some of that's comforting.
Yeah. So what was the so you get drafted? What was the how do you get over to Vietnam? You're on a ship for a while, or or you get flown?
You mean in my case?
Yeah.
All right, here we go. This is all right. I went to Navigator School out in Sacramento, California. Sacramento, California in 1968, 69. Shall we say women were becoming very aware of their equal rights and their willingness to participate in the joy of living, otherwise known as sex. But anyway, it was a wonderful place to be as a bachelor. Coming out of college, and I said, this going through NAV school is not bad. Well, NAV school ends, and I played a lot of golf there and won some tournaments and whatnot. And I went off to graduated. Let's just leave it at that. I don't want to belabor this point. I graduated and went up to survival school, went through survival school up in Washington State, living out, and oh God, what they make you eat and what they make you do. And
that sounds rough.
Survival
school does not sound fun.
It was not. Everybody that's on want to eat rabbit's eyes and showing you can eat almost anything. And they tell you,
really?
Eat rabbit's eyes. There's a lot of this. I said, but they're tiny. Tasted terrible. Oh,
so many nutrients.
Saline was like, but anyway,
like a boba ball.
That's wild.
Yeah, how'd you get to? So everyone else took a boat, I imagine. The Colonel,
the
kind of VIP treatment you get over there?
No. You always went by airplane. Nobody went by boat to Vietnam. But anyway, I get out of NAV school and I'm supposed to go to Pope Air Force Base in Fayetteville, North Carolina, and. So I'm getting in the car, graduation ceremony. They're giving me this flimsy little piece of paper saying you survived 3 weeks of being in the outdoors and all the other training they had to give you. They imprisoned you. And anyway, you had to spend, I think, 24 hours.
POW training.
Oh, yeah. That's what we did. They captured you, put you in. You were in a little, this is taking up way too much time, what they had to do. I mean, it was standard for everybody. I'm not saying there was anything unique or horrible about it, but it was training that you damn well knew you didn't want to be a POW.
Yeah.
All right. Now, having said all that, we graduate, and we're in this big graduation room. There's about 200 in our class up there, maybe 300 even. There's a lot of people. And we're sitting in there, and they call out, all right, you all have graduated. pick up your certificates at the desk and all this kind of stuff, and thank you, blah, 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 blah. And then the guy the MC that's running it and all that says, oh, and Colonel so-and-so would like to say a few words. Colonel comes on and he says the usual thing, congratulations, appreciate you doing this. He's the head of the survival school. And then he says, would Lieutenant Napier report to me at the end of this meeting? I almost dropped dead in my seat. Who? Lieutenant Napier? I mean, I'm nothing.
Out.
I'm nothing. You know, I wasn't a distinguished graduate of Snake School or... And the next thing I report to him, and he says, you got to go back to Mather. Your assignment to Pope in C-130s has been canceled. And I thought, oh, my God, that's terrible. That probably means they had just pulled pilots out of the back seat of the F-4 fighter, two-seat fighter, and that was the primary airplane the Navy and the Air Force were using in Vietnam, fighter airplane, fighter-bomber. And so I said, oh, they're going to send me to F-4s, because almost all the rest of the class had gone to, my class had gone to F-4s already. And I thought, oh, geez, I'm going to F-4s. They've canceled. So I go in, and the squadron commander says, go down and see the wing commander. He says, I don't have a clue why you got called back. And I thought, well, that's strange. My squadron commander didn't know. So I go down and see him, and and I go in, and the secretary says, why are you in here, Lieutenant? Lieutenants don't get to see the wing commander. And I said, ma'am, I was directed to go.
What did he say?
The exec sitting at a table across the aisle said, are you Napier? And I said, this isn't good. And he jumps up. He says, you're Napier, aren't you? And I said, yes, sir. And he says, stand right there. Don't move. And he goes into the wing commander's office. And I said, I don't know what I've done, but I'm about to get shot. You know, I was sure it was going to be a court-martial and a firing squad. So in I trot. Lieutenants just don't see wing commanders. And so I go into the wing commander's office, and he's doing something at his desk, and I'm standing there as straight as I can stand. And anyway, he puts down the phone. He says, are you Napier? About the third one that said, are you Napier? And I said, yes, sir. Oh, and he smiles and jumps up, goes over to, he has a big couch and chairs, and he sits on the couch and points to me to sit at the other end of the couch. And he says, boy, am I glad I got hold of you. And I said, oh, God. And I don't have a clue what assignment he's going to give me. And he says, I got a call from General Simler, and your name has come up because you won this tournament and this tournament while you were in NAV school. And I thought he's going to say, how did that affect your grades? Well, I busted a check ride and all this. And anyway, and I'm sure I'm going to get an ass chewing. And he says, well, General Simler's decided that you're going to play on his ATC golf team. That's the air training command. So I get selected to go that. I go off and play in that, and I come back. Now the story gets grim. And I come in and report to my squadron commander. He said, yeah, the wing commander wants to see you immediately. And I said, okay, good. All right. I'm going to get a KC-135 to Homestead Air Force Base in Miami. This is just what a golfer like me needs. I'll be able to play golf and fly, blah, 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 blah. So I went in and I said, sir, and he got up, and this time he hugs me, and he says, General Simler is thrilled with the performance that me and a couple of other guys made that came from other bases. And he says, he's real pleased with you all. And he says, and I said, thank you, sir, blah, 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 blah. And he says, I bet you'd like to know what your assignment is. And I said, yes, sir, thinking, here comes Homestead. You know, they're going to really reward me. He says, I have a great assignment for you. It'll really help your career. He said, career? And I thought, this might not be the assignment I was seeking.
Yeah.
And he says, I have a gunship in Vietnam for you at Van Rang Air Base, Vietnam. And what do you think of that? I almost threw up. I almost passed out. And that's all. I couldn't even respond.
Let's go. So now you're amped up.
I said, how is this happening? I was on my way to law school, and now I played golf, and I played golf, and I thought this Air Force is pretty good.
Sounds like that golf swing got you into an airplane in some way.
It got me into a gunship in Vietnam. I went to training, and I went to Vietnam.
What? Damn, that's wild.
That is wild. That's great.
But that's how it happened. And
Yeah.
it's not the traditional thing you might think of a war hero, you know, volunteering, ready to go, follow me and all that. It was kick me in the ass and I've got to get on the airplane and fly to Vietnam. And that's what happened.
Yeah, that's cool. So now you're in Vietnam and you said you served two tours over there.
I served one tour with the Air Force, and that's what we're going to talk about.
Let's talk about it. Let's get into some Vietnam. You want to? Do you have you were?
All right, let me tell you how it started.
Well, yeah, I thought that you should just tell us about how it
I've given you
started.
the pre-start. Now the real start is when we're flying over there. It's a long flight, and we stopped at, I think, Hawaii, and then we may have stopped at Wake or Guam. These are islands as you hop across the Pacific. And so anyway, we landed finally at Cam Ranh. I could show you on the map. But anyway, Cam Ranh base, which was one of the many air bases in Vietnam. It's just about in south central Vietnam. And we landed there, and we're to catch an airplane and go someplace else and go to wherever our assignment is. And my airplane doesn't go for 3 or 4 hours, so I go over to the BX snack bar. I mean, it's a tiny little place, no air conditioning. Light goes on. This may not be the most habitable place for a man of my articulate nature, you know, to be in a place, bugs, you're slapping bugs and all this. And I'm in a starched 1505 uniform to make an impression on my new squadron commander that I'm going to go meet.
Pretty hot too, huh?
And, it was really hot. And we're in there, and I get a thing of ice cream and all this kind of stuff. All of a sudden, and I'll never forget this, 3 infantrymen are in there. I don't know if they're Marines or Army. I couldn't tell the difference in. And anyway, they're sitting at a table. My table, I'm by myself, and a table about that big. And they're a table over, and they're all sitting there, and they got rifles on, and they got beards. Well, they hadn't been able to shave. They'd been out in the boonies, and they were coming back in. For whatever reason, they might have been going to R&R and catching her, blah, blah. Who knows? The next thing I hear is this siren going off. It's an alert that we're going to be coming under fire and to take cover immediately. And I thought, fuck. I said, I've only been in Vietnam about 2 hours.
Yeah,
you know?
you're eating an ice cream going, things just got
and
real.
At first I didn't think, well, so what? I'm in, this isn't nothing growing. Then I look over, and there's those 3 soldiers with the beard and the combat look in their eye. They're tired, and their rifles. And the next thing I see, they're all on the ground under their table. And I said, well, hell, bell. So I jumped down and get underground, and eventually I never heard any rounds splash or anything, but eventually the bell goes silent, and they said, all clear, and that kind of stuff goes on. But we were under those tables for a good 45 minutes, it seemed like, maybe 30, maybe 15. Time in combat situations, time is not linear. It never goes at the same speed in any situation the same. Sometimes it's split second. You get 20 minutes in a half a second. Sometimes half a second takes 20 minutes or longer.
Right.
I can't tell you why it's like that.
That's kind of interesting that time is not lineage.
It's not linear in combat. And why? I don't know. The mind or whatever it is. But blah, 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 blah. So anyway, I get up. I get up. Go to get ready to go on the airplane, go in to take a piss, and I look in the mirror. There's my ice cream right in the front of my my starch 1505s, and there it is, right there. Now I'm going to go meet my new squadron commander with that ice cream in the middle of my chest. So off I went, met him, blah 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 blah, and then
that's crazy. It's a wild initiation into the first day of
I can imagine the rest of Vietnam wasn't so ice cream melting on your chest. Huh? What was your key? What was your main task like when you were in? So you were in a gun. I was
in a 119 gunship.
What was your average kind of like mission? What was the day-to-day kind of like thing? And it probably changed, but like what was an average like week for you like there?
Okay, the missions ran from 4 hours to 6 hours, and that was on how much ammunition you contained, or whether you had to go back and get more ammunition, blah 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 blah, and how much fuel you could carry, and all these things. And we flew heavy. It did kill some of us. Flying heavy meant you took more fuel and more ammo. The other thing
Then was recommended.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We flew heavy. We flew past the charts. You have all these fancy charts that tell you at what takeoff speed you've got, when you're going to lift off, at what weight, and how much lift you're going to, blah, blah, blah. They got all this, and you plot out with your weights. You go into the charts and say, yeah, that's in boundaries. Well, I can tell you that almost every mission we flew for combat reasons, that we were so far out, there was no way to measure it. So we never did a takeoff, what they call a takeoff point where you pull back and lift off. We simply rolled until we could get the airplane off the ground. And we didn't get 3 of them off the ground. They went in at the end of the runway.
Went into the jungle?
We were flying too heavy, and we had all sorts of waivers from the Air Force all the way up to the Pentagon, and all sorts of, no, we can't let them do that. But eventually they said, yeah, we're going to do that. They needed to get gunships in there. What was happening is the better gunships, the C-130 gunships, had been pulled off of doing close air support for the Army and the Marines, and had been shifted up to flying the trail and killing trucks. None of our fancy fighters were tremendously good at killing trucks. We didn't have guided bombs in those days. We didn't have any other thing. We tried a lot of different airplanes, and the best one was the gunship. So the AC-130s that were better armed and all this, and they had some armor protection. They could carry more, and they went there. To backfill the United States Army and the Marines, they put in 119s. And they hurried the initial G model 119. There were 2 types of 119s, Gs and Ks. Ks had jets underneath the wing. We didn't, but they needed to get gunships in there so they could pull the bigger gunships, the better gunships, up onto the trail.
They had to expedite that one night.
We had to stop the truck traffic. It was outrageous how many trucks they were getting down to resupply their forces, and we thought,
And you say you didn't have guided missiles, so like
then.
So you actually had to like spot the truck and then kind of
just like World War II. You've seen all those films of World War II where they strafe and go
and then fly and swoop away.
Strafing is not safe. Lots of planes get shot down strafing.
Is that what that's called, strafing, when you're kind of diving
and you're
at
doing
a target?
This, making a pass and you're shooting them with bullets. Okay, the next thing you do is you bomb. Well, some pilots are real good at it, but even the good ones don't hit the target every time. Then you couple that with they don't hit the target every time in practice. Well, now you start shooting at them, and you start the excitement of combat. You start the unknown of where is the target, and maybe the forward air controller, either in an airplane or on the ground, is saying, hey, we want you to hit this spot. Well, there was no guarantee that if you hit that spot, that was going to do anything. So, again, I'm not denigrating what they did because they certainly tried everything they could do, but they needed a more accurate system, particularly for troops in contact, and that was why they pulled these old airplanes, 119s, out of the boneyard, literally out of the boneyard, retrofitted them with guns, put some armor plating in them. When we got into Vietnam and we got one of these airplanes, or not me, but the crew, the people at the time, the first thing they did was take all the armor plating out of the gunship, out of the 119.
For weight, so that you can...
Weight, because they couldn't, and we're going to fly heavy. Now, you had that ammo, you had that armor in there, you were going to fly real heavy. We didn't have a lot of it, but it was, the cockpit had armor plates. They couldn't pull the one that was underneath the flare launcher. We had a flare launcher so we'd have light to shoot by in the nighttime. And so rather than pulling that, we didn't want that flare launcher to go up. You hit that flare launcher anywhere from 600 degrees Fahrenheit to 5,000 degrees Fahrenheit, depending upon how many flares are popped off when that round goes in there. It could even be just a bullet could set those things off. So we left the armor plate there to try to give us some protection. The other 2 places were one by the left foot of the pilot. There was a little tiny window. And the 119's all glass. It was an airdrop airplane in just after, in the Korean War. And so they had these 2 little plates of glass on the pilot's left foot, just past his left foot, and one just past that was the only, and it was only about that big. And that's those were the only two. Those
Vulnerable
three
kinda.
were the only places they left armor in the airplane. None of the wings.
That's wild.
Nothing. And why, you say? Weight kills us. Weight killed crews.
They didn't really know where the line was until a couple of them went in. You probably
We
figured-
knew where the line. That's not true. We knew where the line was, and we could fly those things as long as both engines turned and pulled. And now the K model that came on behind us, the other 119s that had the jets on them, they could lose an engine on takeoff and lift off with no problem, even heavy. And you're always heavy at takeoff. Why? Because you've got the most fuel and you've got the most ammo.
Yeah.
Okay.
Are you flying more low altitudes on a lot of these missions to stay kind of like hidden?
Not
or
really.
like kind of like
Not
because
really.
it's pretty hilly terrain there.
Yeah, we'd try to get over the hills and then we'd come down on the target. Sometimes we did other things, but that didn't happen all. Now here's the real issue in the G model. We had 7.62, which is a slug about that long, maybe about that long. Anyway, and that's all we had were machine guns, 4 machine guns shooting as much as 6,000 rounds per minute out of each gun.
Jeez.
Now, you couldn't do that, but for about 12 to 15, 16 seconds because you'd melt the barrels because the gun got too hot. So we normally fired at around 1,800 rounds per minute to 2,000 rounds per minute.
Bursts.
And yes, we didn't go long bursts. You really didn't want to go much over 10 to 15 seconds at the most. Because again, even with just one gun on the line and doing that, it got too hot and it melts and you'd lose the gun. And so anyway, I won't say we never fired 4 guns at 6,000 rounds because I did, but it was a rare.
Only if you needed it.
That is correct. Or you had a target that needed a lot of bullets down really quick, and that did occur.
That's crazy. You mentioned like at night that you would shoot flares off the front to light up your
Not
target.
off the front. They actually came off the tail of the air. Well, to the right hand side, just forward of the tail.
So that the next plane could shoot, let's
No,
see how you were going to shoot.
What the flares were for primarily, 2 reasons. The first reason, the guy on the ground wanted flares up because it's dark.
Oh, gotcha.
And you got to remember, this is the period before night vision goggles. They were just coming in, and we weren't using them, and the Army didn't have them, the Marines didn't. I won't say they didn't have them, but it was rare. And they just weren't there yet. We were about 2 to 3 years away from when night vision goggles popped out. Now, every soldier now has night vision goggles.
Would have been nice, huh?
Yeah, and we didn't have them. But anyway, so
I almost forget that you're helping the guy. I always just think that you're in an airplane, you're almost attacking the enemy. But there's a lot of dudes on ground that you're giving cover for, lighting up some stuff. Like you're probably taking care of some. I forgot that there's a whole team on the ground that you're like coordinating with.
Technically speaking, we had about 4 different missions: air interdiction, troops in contact. There was another one, armed recce, where you'd go out and you were really wrecking, but if you found a target while you were reconnaissing, you could shoot it.
Yeah.
So we had those 3 missions, and we had some other flare light just to provide flare for the guy on the ground. So we had about 4 missions, but the reality of the 119G that I flew most of the time, I did fly some Ks, but that's another story. And but the reality of what we did was troops in contact pretty much all the time. We did do some interdiction when we go hunt trucks or sampans or anything that could do resupply for the enemy. We could do that and did that. Most of that for me happened over in Cambodia. While I was flying the first 6 months primarily in Vietnam, we did what I said, troops in contact, and we got involved in a really a nasty battle up in the tri-border area where Laos, Cambodia, and Vietnam all come together in a small little triangle in the valley. But I'll get in. I'll go back to.
We'll get into that. I want to.
Let me.
Yeah.
Here I am, a brand new kid, and I get shipped off to a place called Tuiwa, which is a coast. And at first I thought, oh, we're way out here on the coast. Then I learned that's the greatest place to be. We got single rooms with air conditioning.
Ooh, that sounds nice.
Oh, that was nice compared to everybody else. It's 2 or 3 guys or 4 guys or 12 guys in a room, no air conditioning. You know, you go to bed, everybody would smell, and in the morning time they smell worse. And, you know, it just wasn't what you wanted. Now, the Air Force, because we're flying at night and had to be able to sleep in the daytime, they gave us air-conditioned quarters.
Let these boys get some good quality sleep at night.
The Army and the Navy and the Marines almost despised us. Not so much the Navy; they're out on the ship. I think they get air conditioning too, to tell you the truth. But I don't know. What I do know is that the Army and the Marines did not, and they're on the ground slugging a rifle, getting muddy and getting shot at. And I'm in the air, and when I land, combat's over. I'm in there unless they lob some mortars in or rockets at us.
Yeah, you're back in the green zone, kind of.
That's right. And let me briefly, I went up to Tuiwa and I get an instructor, Sonny Sebring, Captain Sebring, and he was the best instructor I ever had, and all of the instructors that upgraded me to any airplane throughout my entire career. And Captain Sebring gets me, and we take off on the first mission, and the next thing I know, I'm in a jump seat. I don't have to do anything for 4 hours but observe. That's called your dollar ride. And so I'm sitting in there, and we take off, and almost the moment we broke ground, I hear this: "We're losing number one. We're losing number one. Get number one out. Shut it down. Shut it down." The engine is catching on fire, and we're on takeoff roll. Now we're in the air, and that's when they cross. This brilliant pilot then simply says, "Tell him," he says, screaming, "doing 180 to the field. Clear the runway." And we did this and came down and landed. Now, Air Force are measured in tenths of an hour. That's how you get credit for how long you flew. They gave us 1/10 of an hour in my dollar ride. I didn't see any of the country. I didn't see how a gunship worked. I didn't understand anything about this. And I got off the airplane and we went back in. And so the first time we make it a critical emergency landing, nobody was hurt, and everything. The pilot should have gotten the Medal of Honor, in my opinion. But anyway, we
You might be biased.
because we were heavy, and we get out there, and I said, "Well, I get another dollar ride, don't I, Captain Sebring?" He looked at me and he says, "Lieutenant Napier, go get some sleep. Tomorrow night we do this for real. You're in the seat." Oh, okay.
Damn, man.
That is good.
That was your first
flight. 1/10. 1/10. I got the paperwork somewhere. I don't know if I brought it or not.
I don't think anyone's going to fact check you on this one.
Point one. I got it. Then we went. The second mission we flew, and on about the fourth, you got counting your dollar ride. So you had 3 instructional flights, and then on the fourth flight, you had to check out. Now, you got to stop and think. That's pretty quick. That doesn't happen today. You get, call it a month of checkout time flying missions, a lot of situations. But we're in combat. They got to get people in those airplanes, because for everyone they're getting in like me, somebody's going home. And so to keep the crews and rotating, they got to do this. And so we're going quick, and Sebring's got the job of upgrading and all this. So I think it was on the next to last flight, third flight, fourth flight, whatever it was, before I got my check ride. I'm flying this mission, and I'm working my ass off. And oh God, and the senior navigator at Tuiwa, who. Technically, all the navigators kind of worked for him. All the pilots worked for a senior pilot, blah, 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 blah. It kind of worked that way. But anyway, he's kind of in charge. And on the third flight, I've secured everything. I'm getting done. And Sebring says, "Okay, I'll get in the nav seat for landing." I mean, you don't do any way. You monitored the approach plate, blah, blah, blah. But he says, "You sit in the jump seat." And he said, no, I remember. He said, "I'll go downstairs. I'm sorry. Colonel Merrick, I can't remember, Lieutenant Colonel, who was the senior guy, will come up in the jump seat." And I said, "Okay, sir." And so, sure enough, he comes up, sits in the jump seat. I sat like this. That's not true. You can't see it. I sat like this. and no, this was, I faced the rear of the airplane where my maps and radio things and all this. And so I'm sitting there. And so I turn around now because I got to secure for landing, got my landing plate, so I monitor the pilot making the approach in and all this kind of stuff. And I hear this bang. I'm like this, bang on the that doesn't work. But anyway,
Listen, Rusty spinning around in his chair.
Yeah.
It's like, he's hearing bangs from all over the place.
bang on the side of the chair over here is a canteen. And I look over and Colonel Merrill is fiddling around with his flight vest. I don't know what he's doing. We're lining up to get into the runway, and the thing is there. The airplane turns a little bit and spills. I pick it up, I got booze now, and I'm thinking something's wrong here. This isn't right. And I sniff it, take a sip. Ooh, God, that's almost pure alcohol. I don't know. And
Take a sip.
no, well, anyway, I did.
You're not
And
flying.
I didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
And Merrill's doing something. I don't know. So I kind of put it back there. We land. We go into debrief. And I don't know what to do. I mean, you can't drink on it. You just
Mission?
can't.
Yeah.
That's not, and so we go in. And we go into debrief. Sebring takes me into a tiny room, not even as big as this, and I got to spread out my charts, and he's got his notes on what went on in the meeting and how I put on the fire and blah 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 blah. But before we can get in that, I said, Captain Sebring, I got to tell you something, sir. And he sits back and he says, "What's that, Rusty?" And I said, "Sir, Colonel Merrick is drinking. He's got alcohol on the plane, and sir, I think he might be drunk." And Sebring sat back, thought for a moment, and leans forward. He says, "Okay." He says, "Hold that thought." And he says, spread out my charts, and for about an hour and a half, he goes through a detailed debriefing of all the mistakes I made and how I can correct them, and what did I think of this, and how would blah, 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 and don't do that, do this, blah, 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 blah. Typical stuff. And then at the end of that, and he says, "Do you have any other questions?" And I said, "Well, sir, I think we need to talk about, Colonel Merrick." And he says, "Do you have any questions, Lieutenant Napier?" A little bit harsher than than he's been.
A little harder eye contact.
And I sat back and I said, "Well, on the navigation portion of the mission, do you have any questions?" And I said, "No, sir, I can understand that." And he says, "Good." And he sat back and he says, "Now I want you to do something else." And I said, "Okay, sir, what's that?" "Stand at attention." Fuck. That doesn't happen. I mean, don't do that. This doesn't happen. So I stand up and I come to attention. And I'm standing there, and he says, "Now I understand you have a complaint about your NOS, Night Observation Scope Operator, which is what the navigator, not two navigators, one on the desk, one down below in that open doorway. Where is that? There.
Oh yeah.
There. That's where the colonel was, that mission. And that's where I flew some of the time down there too. But anyway, in the door, and it's on the left side. So anyway.
So you're at attention.
And I'm at attention. And I said, "Now what did I do? He's not going to let me qualify." And I said, "Well, that might not be bad. Wonder where they'll send me." And anyway.
Homestead.
No, they're going to keep me in Vietnam for a year. I'm just not going to fly. And so he says, and I'm at attention, and he says, "Now let me tell you something, Lieutenant." And I thought, holy fuck, what did I do? And he says, "This is what I'm going to tell you. You got a complaint about Colonel Merrick, correct?" Merrill again. Yeah. And he says, and I said, "Yes, sir." He says, "Be quiet." I said, "Okay, sir." And he says, "What do you know about Colonel so-and-so?" "Well, sir, I pretty much sure he's drinking." "Nope. Don't tell me about that. What do you know about his past or anything?" I said, "Well, sir, I don't know anything. He's the chief navigator, of the flight and all this kind of stuff." And he says, "Well, let me tell you a few things." He says, "Do you remember in World War II out of North Africa, the Poesti bombing run that bombed the oil fields in Romania? That was key to stifling the Nazis in there and supplying them?" And I said, "Well, yes, sir. Everybody knows about that. Everybody pretty much knew about the Poesti runs." He says, "Do you realize in the Poesti run, they took about 40% loss of airplanes and loss of life in that?" And I said, "Well, yes, sir. I know it was terrible." And he says, "Okay." And he says, "Do you know that Killer Kane that led that mission, the pilot, and he got the Medal of Honor for that mission?" "Well, yes, sir." "Well, there was a third airplane in his 6 aircraft formation that hit the furthest north oil field, the most heavily defended oil field in the Poeste oil field. And he says, of the 6 airplanes, only 2 came back. Killer Kane, an elite airplane, and the 3rd airplane. Now, who do you think was in that 3rd airplane? Sir, I don't know. Well, he says, doesn't matter who the pilot, the bombardier, or any of the other crew members were, but the navigator in that airplane was Colonel Merrick. And he says, and I said, well, in that, sir, be quiet. He says, now let me advance the story a little further. Do you remember Korea? Well, yes, sir. And he says, you remember a place called the Yalu River? I said, yes, sir. That's the boundary between North Korea and Red China. We had pushed them back until the Red Chinese came in and pushed us back. And yes, sir. And he says, well, the colonel that you flew with tonight was on a B-29 over the Yalu River and jumped by 3 MiGs. They shot him down. 3 people were able to get out. The other 7 died in that airplane when it went down. He says, one of those 3 was Colonel Merrick. we picked.
You're calling out the wrong guy, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, he goes on and he says, now he's 30 years in the Air Force. He's been waived, and he's a lieutenant colonel and all this. And he says he's going to retire. But before he retired, he asked and volunteered for his last year on active duty to be in Vietnam. Now, he says, I understand you're somewhat perturbed, but when you fly with Colonel Merrick, you do all the work. Colonel Merrick may or may not drink. We are not going to ask him. Let me repeat that. We or any other crew member is not going to ask him. We think he's earned whatever he's doing.
I like
and
that.
I came back at attention even straighter, and I said, I understand completely, and I will be proud to fly with Colonel Merrick anytime.
He's
sir.
damn right. That's the tone we like.
And he sat back and he said exactly that. That's my initiation. I'm not even checked out.
Yeah.
Now I've had 1 emergency landing, and I've had
He's pretty care of a lifetime. That's pretty sweet. You got to watch out who you pick on.
And Colonel Merrick rotated out in 2 months, and I don't think I ever had to fly with him. But again,
That's pretty cool
But think
story,
of that. Think of
That
that.
is funny.
I like that he's so, solidified and did so much that he even told the guys, he's like, I'm probably going to have some drinks on here. I'm doing my thing.
Well, I
Maybe
don't-
not tell the people, but they would just respect it. They're like, hey, that dude's gangster. You just
I'll
let him
tell
do
you
his
something
thing.
else. I'll tell you something else. About
Hey, we don't need to take a break.
it was very hard for him to climb into that airplane. And once in that airplane, he started shaking. He didn't quit. It wasn't because it could have been because he had more alcohol even before he got in the airplane. I don't know. But he was so scared to fly that last year.
Yeah.
And
Probably why he was drinking some alcohol. And
I haven't
imagine the PTSD from what he went through is pretty.
Oh, and by the
pretty
way,
gnarly.
on the Poeste bombing run, the bombardier got shot and died in Colonel Merrick's arms. So
This dude's
this
an
man has
OG.
seen a
He's
lot. And who is Lieutenant Napier going to say? I am never flying with him, and I want him court-martialed. Out of here.
Shut
No.
up, Rusty.
Now, what I'm
funny.
showing is you make exceptions in combat that don't happen in flying off the local base. So that was the first lesson, and a lesson I've kept forever. Brought it back and all that kind of stuff. But that
Let's take a little break real quick. That's right. We're back after a little break. Rusty just cracked a Red Bull, so watch out now. Watch
Yeah,
out
same.
now, dude. Shane did too, dude.
I got one of the.
Do I get paid for helping you advertise?
Absolutely, yeah. We'll get you on the team. Rusty be wearing a Red Bull hat before you know it.
I want more than a hat.
We'll talk with Red Bull about this. Well, man, it's been a good little first half of the episode. We're like a 120 in or so, 110 in. And man, dude, just hearing the whole.
It's a lot
Getting
different than
drafted
most
in the-
of our guests, Most of the guests
It's
like to
good to
talk
switch-
wakeboard tricks, or we had Tyler on that was doing the motocross thing. This isn't any of that.
Well
So,
said, Shane. I really, this is a good, refreshing shake-up of the Bonifay Banter. And, because we, like Shane said, we have a lot of wakeboarders and we talk a lot of wakeboard and we talk a lot of other random shit too. But it's good to have Uncle Rusty on and switch up the Push up the protocol. We're unpredictable.
And a lot
You
of
know
our
what you're
stories are, based around wakeboarding, but we tell a lot of fun stories too. But these stories aren't based around anything
Nice to
that
have some
we've
stories
ever.
with some real grit and
Some real
consequences
grit,
to it.
some
Like
actual real stories, not just us having drinks and laughing at friends.
Let me tell you it's not a story. This is real. But years later, as we come back and I go to these reunions with some of these guys I flew with that were on my crew, and we'll sit there and they'll say, "Do you remember the night we were shooting at target such and such, blah 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 blah, and the bullets started coming, blah blah," and the guy will look at me and he'll say, "I don't remember that," and then he'll say, "But you remember the night we were at such and such and shooting that," and I think back, I don't remember that.
Yeah.
So combat is peculiar to the individual and how he shapes it, and how what becomes a reality is to him.
right. And imagine like being there for like a couple years and having a bunch of crazy shit just happen. Like I bet like you said, the time is not linear. I bet these moments happen and like you can almost black out for like a whole mission. Not really on at the time, but decades later you're trying to remember it, and it was just so the memories are so up and down and crazy. I bet it's like it does something to your memory.
I have to get these charts out. It was simply because when I read the name on the chart, I said, "Oh yeah, I remember that night." And that's why I put this thing in front.
There's some
of me.
nights we don't remember too.
Yeah, there's definitely some nice stuff. And it's like different people, their perception of the story is all different. You know what I mean? Like if somebody's there with you and they almost, let's say they almost died a few minutes ago, that might remember that a lot more than because you didn't even realize how close you were or what was going. Maybe their perspective on a story can change to the point where it's like that was a crazy thing. Where so much crazy stuff's happened, and you're like, well, I wasn't as close as it was last night when we were doing this or whatever. You know what I mean? Like so.
Well, let me digress back to what a grim place Vietnam was, and anyway, let me things began to happen, and I'm talking about a grim place Vietnam was. Well, what do you think we did every night when we landed, or in the mornings when we landed, or whatnot? Yeah. Guess what? The bar stayed open 24 hours a day, and we'd go to the bar and we'd start drinking. I thought that I should drink martinis. Well, you're getting 2 shots in every martini, gin martini, and by the way, we weren't putting any olives or anything else in it. We were simply pouring 2 shots of gin in it and knocking it back.
Yeah.
Now we did learn that it's hot over there, and so we'd put some ice cubes in it. So we weren't even drinking a true martini. We were drinking gin on the rocks.
Gin on the rocks in a nice glass.
It came in a martini glass. It wasn't stirred. It wasn't mixed, and all that kind of stuff. So I'm drinking that, and I got there in March, and about early April, and I mean, every night we drank. And I'm not the only one.
No,
Now,
everyone probably on the base.
Everyone was. Well, I'm sure there weren't one or two that weren't. Even the chaplain was drinking.
It seemed like a pretty good vibe every night. Like when everyone came back and survived.
Anything to take your mind off of
where you were and what you were doing.
That's right. And so I kept waking up in the mornings and getting ready to go fly, and my stomach was killing me. And I said, "Oh my goodness, I've got an ulcer. I know I got to go into the flight surgeon." And I'm thinking in the back of my mind, they'll send me home. I've got an ulcer. So I go in and I go to the flight surgeon, and I said, "Doc so-and-so," and he flew with us occasionally. The flight surgeon did. All of the flight surgeons flew with us periodically. And he said, "What brings you in here, Lieutenant Napier?" And I said, "Sir, my stomach is killing me." So he didn't even run a test or anything. Put the stethoscope on, checked my heart, and he says, "Okay." He says, "All right." And he says, any other problems?" I said, "No, sir, just my stomach's killing me." And he says, "Okay." And I said, "Well, what do you think, sir? Am I going to have to go for tests? Are you going to send me someplace?" And he looked at me. "No," he says, "I'm going to tell you, don't quit drinking martinis."
He knew he could see
He was at
right
the bar.
through it.
He was at the bar with us every night.
He's literally elbow to elbow with you.
And he says, You're drinking too much. That's your problem, Lieutenant. Oh, gosh. Reality is crushing in a war zone.
Reality is crushing in a war zone.
You're drinking too much,
That's a
Lieutenant. So
quote.
anyway, that got me off martinis. That didn't stop me drinking. But
What'd you switch to?
I think I drink. I'm 23 years old, and I didn't want to go to bourbon and water or anything that made more sense. So I think I started drinking grapefruit juice and gin.
Big gin guy.
But but I could put a lot
pretty
of
much you
ice.
just- so
I
pretty
could
much-
put a lot of ice in that and fill it with grapefruit juice and not even a shot. I'd watch them when they pour. I said, no more than one shot. Don't even give me that much, you know. And,
I like you listen to the doc by just adding some grape juice to your drink.
well, anyway, I didn't quit drinking, but and then I started going over to beer because everybody drank copious amounts of beer.
Would the locals party with you at all, like from
No.
around that? No.
No, I did have a drink once with a Vietnamese officer, and it was only once, and it was uncomfortable. I'm not sure I know why, but it just didn't work. I think it was us, not him.
Yeah, I can imagine the
We just
uncomfortable
didn't-
tension.
I mean, he was on our side. He was fighting, and
Yeah.
blah blah blah. That happened quite some time later when I got moved to Saigon. But anyway, let's get back to this. Get this over with for you.
What's Vietnam heated? What do you want to? What you got? Some cool, like, crazy stories.
Anyway, after I'd been there and I had my wake up, I'd even flown the Ho Chi Minh Trail once, and we got shot at with AAA. I only got shot at with AAA in the whole year that I was over there twice. And that was on this mission, and it exploded above us, and we could hear the rattling of the shrapnel coming
Hitting.
down. I think it was 37 millimeter. That's a flak gun. Anyway,
What were y'all flying?
119.
119s.
Yeah, the same. Always in 119s then, and so that those things popped, and we quit flying the Ho Chi Minh Trail, which on this map is right on the border. Anyway, it's up north.
Yeah.
Up, not that. Yeah, about it right in here. We're somewhere right in there. It comes down. It stayed in Laos, and when I say the trail, it's not one road. It's a multiple of roads, as many as 100 different ways for them to send trucks down with resupply, because they had to do all the resupplying from way up here in Hanoi, and it had to come all the way down to South Vietnam. And
So you're trying to stop the trucks for roughly,
everybody, that was what the Air Force thought they were there now to do, more than anything else. And
but it was just impossible with all the little mini trails that they had to
yeah,
navigate through.
but the AC-130s did a hell of a job. Now, the AC-130s paid for doing that hell of a job. They lost 5 airplanes, and there were 14 men on a crew. And they didn't lose all the 14 every time, but just about every
Right,
time.
yeah.
They lost 5 airplanes. So anyway, I went up on the trail. That's the one. There were twice I got shot with AAA, but that was the most threatening time. And
What's the AAA stand for? Aircraft.
aircraft artillery? I don't know.
Yeah,
It's
Yeah.
It's AAA, and that shows you.
AAA.
It's AAA. We knew what that was. That's a
Yeah.
bursting
We
flak
did,
burst.
yeah.
It's a- That'll kill you. Don't get involved in AAA. And so anyway, that's the only reason I mention that is it's always in your mind. Don't get shot at.
Yeah.
but
That's something
now-
I live by too.
The next event, we flew up and down in country, and we flew up close to the Ho Chi Minh, not the Ho Chi Minh Trail, but the DMZ, anyway, the difference between North Vietnam and South Vietnam. Didn't have any real hot missions. At my time, we had actually lost. We didn't own the top, call it 50 miles of South Vietnam.
That's where
We didn't own. DMZ is right about in there, and we didn't own about this much. Maybe a little. It doesn't matter. We own the coast, and that's not true.
So you're
But we
saying
didn't-
that we
didn't own any of this.
we were pretty much
We
already
had
losing
pulled
and
out.
lost and
We had
pulled
lost,
out, and they
we
kind
had
of
lost, and we had fought the battle of I don't know. We fought a land battle at Way, and then Khe Sanh was another terrible battle that we fought, and we won, but we pulled out. That's what we did over and over again. We'd storm up to the top of the hill, take the ground forces would take 20 casualties or 30 casualties, boys getting killed. We'd get to the top of the hill, and they'd say, good job, now come on down off the hill. Fuck, back we'd come. Same thing in the airplanes. We'd go after targets, we'd bomb the targets, and they'd say, "Good job, you did great." Okay, and what happens now? Oh, we're going to wait a while. They'll come back. And the trucks kept coming.
As a soldier, are y'all just like, what the fuck are we doing? Like, why are we
I'm not
putting
sure.
our boys at risk? We're doing this, and like,
I'm not. I don't ever recall. What
did you
are
ever
we doing?
question like what like that?
We questioned a lot of things. Why are we going after that target? Or we were allowed to put in an artillery, not artillery, but an alternate way to attack that target. We'd come in low, pop up, rather than come them down and drop down. We'd come out of the north. We'd come across their guns instead of into their guns, blah, 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 blah. We didn't always know where their guns were, but sometimes we did. And now I'll get to that's where I'm going with all this crap. There was a battle that started bursting out. It's in an area. Flip it over. See this area right here? I don't know. Right here is a tri-border area.
Yep.
This is Cambodia, this is Laos, and this is Vietnam. And in there, now I got to pull the chart closer to me. 'Cause I can't.
I just wanted a photo of your hand pointing at it so we can show these people because they probably won't get a good angle. But
Yeah, I understand. I'm not going to belabor this. Okay. Doc To and Doc Peck and Doc Siang, particularly Doc Siang, became trigger points. This is where the trail was now coming in and infiltrating all the way down to Saigon, bringing in supplies for the North Vietnamese army. Now, remember, I didn't say the Viet Cong. The Viet Cong were South Vietnamese that had gone over to a guerrilla side of the war. By this time, in 1969, 1970, the Viet Cong was just about decimated. They didn't have Tet back in 67 when they rose up and did all their fighting and everything. It just about ended their ability. But what hadn't ended was the North Vietnamese regular army, which was expanding to well over 1 million men. And they were coming out of North Vietnam and coming down here. But the trick, once they got here, was to resupply them. They had to have more bullets. They had to have
After
food.
they moved all the way down.
Yeah, that's correct. So resupply was what the battles became. There were three special forces campments in this area: Doc To, Doc Siang, and Doc Peck. Doc Siang, Seang, right in this area, tri-border area. And when I say that, the encampments had montagnards, which were indigenous natives to this area of Vietnam. And we had co-opted them into helping them. They didn't like the North Vietnamese because they were moving them out of territory and pushing down into their territory. What they claimed was their
Would they
territory.
mess with the locals, the North Vietnamese? Would they mess with those locals?
Oh,
the
yeah.
indigenous
They'd
people?
kill them. They were after the Montagnards. They were enemies. And so anyway, the Montagnards wanted to
That's
stop
why it was
it.
easy to co-op with them.
Oh, yeah, they loved us.
Yeah.
I mean, we were there to give them love is always a debatable issue.
It's relative.
Anyway.
sorry, I got you.
All right, so we get sent up there, and the battle begins, and we fly night after night to a place called Doc Sang. Small little runway. We couldn't land on that runway, but small airplanes and helicopters particularly could go in there. And it was a special forces encampment. Night after night, bullet after bullet, we put into that place. Not my airplane alone, but other airplanes. We flew almost around the clock. We weren't flying hardly any place else in Vietnam. We had a major battle going on. It was like the battle at Quai Son that had happened earlier in the 60s that you read a lot about. So we're up there night after night after night, and we're flying out of right there, Phuket. That was the name of the base we were at. So it's not a long trip up here to this tri-border area. Mm-hmm. You can get there in less than an hour. But there are a lot of mountainous and hills in here, and we would fly at altitude up there, cold as hell to get to 10,000 feet, wearing an open cockpit airplane. The gun ports are open. The night vision goggle, night observation scope's a big open thing. The flare ramp is open, and the rear end was open. The rear end, we tossed expended ammo cans out the rear end and all that. So we're flying, and we put the guy that watched for missiles coming up back on the on the ramp. And when I say the ramp, the tail, it was an old troop dropping airplane that was 19. So we could lower that and open, and he'd hang out there with his chin over the open thing, strapped down, looking for AAA or anything coming up.
Coming out, yeah.
I don't think people always know what we asked the American fighting men to do. I didn't want to ever go back there. I did once or twice, but it wasn't a lot of fun. Okay, so we're going up there night after night, and we're up there one night. We've been doing a lot of shooting, and we had an Australian guy on a tour with us from Australia, and we learned that this guy was incredible. He would get us right on the target, and we would hit the target, and he was giving us night after night for about 3 weeks as we flew up there. We would get him, and his call sign was Kangaroo. We created our call, and he's a guy on the ground, and they could create their own call signs. They were supposed to be Alpha Tango 972-00, whatever it is. Who's going to use something like that in combat, you know? So he was Kangaroo, and we went up there and shot for Kangaroo. And then I remember one night we flew back up there, and we said, "Where's Kangaroo? We're ready to go to work." And the guy quiet, and the guy says, "Kangaroo bought it last night." Guy's dead. Now all of a sudden that wakes up the whole combat thing to you. This was an Australian fighting with us. Holy shit! And we've lost the best guy we had at putting in. There's always a ground guy. Sometimes there's an air fac. There's a ground.
Maybe that's
guy.
why he went down, because he was so good and just committed
Maybe
to it.
He
a little
went
bit.
over. Who knows? Maybe he got overconfident. Who knows what kills you?
Yeah.
Or maybe he didn't go out and the mortar just arbitrarily hit him. You know, he wasn't even doing anything.
That's heavy.
You never know. So anyway, we're up there in the war, and it's getting worse and worse and worse, and all that. And we're up there one night. Two things happened. They put in an airdrop of caribous. Those are very light airplanes, and they go in there and they start dropping at night. But the first drop they tried was at daytime, and they asked for a gunship. First daylight mission I ever flew was to watch them go in. So we were up there watching them go in and do all this, and they go across, and I think it was the fourth airplane out of a drop of 5. And they came in formation, because that's what the book said. You drop in formation, so you tightly wrap all of it. You go right off the lead airplane, and he's the guy that's responsible for getting all airplanes over the target, you know. So they go in there, and all of a sudden we see one airplane hit. He rocks his wings and pulls off. And I think, whoa. You know, and he's screaming, and the other caribous are heading home, and they asked us. They said, "Gunship Shadow, whatever we were, 92, whatever number. We changed numbers every night, but we were always called Shadow." And we said, "Okay, we got him. We'll fly on his wing. We'll escort him home." And we talked to the pilot. "How are you doing? How are you doing?" And the co-pilot was doing most of the radio. "We're under control. We think we got it. We've isolated it. And we can make it back to where we shot up there."
Yeah, back to the.
I'm trying to Pleiku. He says we can make it back to here, Pleiku, which was a relatively larger runway and all this. Now he's up here. Where are we? Yeah, he's up here. So we're coming back, and we're gathering on his wing, and it's daytime, so we can see, and we're going along, and all of a sudden I hear this screaming. The co-pilot screaming, "Mayday, mayday, mayday! We've got a fire! It's terrible! It's gonna..." Bam! The wing pops off the airplane. The airplane flops over. Blat! They're all dead, and out of nowhere. And they think they had that all under control. It goes to show you can't always tell. Now here's the real sobering part of that. As I found out later on, because the caribous were stationed with us back at Phuket. And we went over and talked to them. They wanted to talk to all of us to see what, because we were the airplane and we were right on their wing when all this happened. And we're talking to them, and we says, "Does anybody have the name?" And we always want to know the name of the crew. And they went down the name of the crew, and they hit a name. And I said, "Whose name? What'd you say?" And they said, "This so-and-so, Lieutenant so-and-so." He was the co-pilot. That lieutenant had played on my Pony League baseball team with me.
No shit, damn.
Really? At Seymour Johnson Air Force Base
great.
when I was in high school. And I was crazy. I was in high school, and he had played on my Pony League baseball team.
Small little world.
And he wasn't very good. Not only that, I'd gone to basic training at Eglin Air Force Base, basic training. ROTC sent you off for 3 months of real Air Force training, and he had been and he'd gone to the Citadel, and so he knew all about how to pass an inspection. I didn't fucking know anything about how to get through at that age. But anyway, Charlie Supernaut was his name, and Charlie got me through all that. And I always thought, I said, Charlie couldn't play baseball, but by God, he can get me through this
damn right.
this hideous hell that I'm going through.
You're not going to miss that last name too.
Anyway, the sad thing was Charlie.
That's a wild one. And
what are the odds? What are the odds on that happening?
Totally.
Yeah.
And then you hearing the name, and then you recognizing his name.
I didn't recognize his voice or anything.
Right.
Yeah. I wonder if he recognized your voice. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if you don't think...
And I probably wasn't doing...
No, but your mind's not at that point. You're just listening and communicating
I
back and forth.
I don't know that I was
That's
on the
crazy.
radio.
Anything can happen, and it happens fast out there, man.
Generally, I didn't do the talking
to
other airplanes. I did the talking to the guy on the ground. But anyway, so they finally figured out a way to get them in there, and this is how they got them in there. They stopped the daylight drops, and they stopped the formation drops. And then they would start flying over there in single airplanes in a Caribou, and that could hit. But there was a trick. They had to have light on the drop zone, so they would come in and they would navigate as best they could in the dark, and we were up above it. We didn't have the light on. We had a big flash. I don't know if any of these pictures have a real good. Let's see. But anyway, on the
just a big old spotlight.
Explain it to the people.
Big spotlight. Now that spotlight could go white or it could go infrared. That's not true. It could go near red.
Yeah.
That's where in the visual thing it's very difficult to see near red with the naked eye. Mm-hmm. It's not quite infrared because it can fractionally be seen, but it's very difficult. But anyway, but this is the way the plan would go. That airplane would come in there at night. He'd drop down, and when he was about 30 seconds out of the drop zone, and he wasn't sure where the drop zone was because he's flying at night, he would call a call sign, and he might use another gunship's call sign: Shadow, Stinger, Spectre. One of the so they would think he was a gunship of some sort, the bad guys, and he would say, Shadow 26 toll gate or whatever the code word, possum trot or whatever we use. The code name changed every night. That meant he was roughly 30 seconds out. Now it was our job to get over the target, and we were over the target at about 1,800 feet. And you say, why 1,800 feet? And we were right over Dak Siang. It's on the chart there. And we would put that light on, and 1,800 feet, the white light encompassed the strip that we were trying to drop the supplies on. Now, that's a great plan. There's only one thing wrong with that plan.
They can see you.
They can see you. And they can't see that airplane coming in to drop. Guess what they can see? That airplane with the big white flashlight. And rounds would start climbing up into the sky at us,
And see some tracer bullets.
And all we could pray, when he would say possum trot inbound and leapfrog outbound, and when we heard leapfrog, the light would come out. Holy Christ. Now, here's what would happen, and one night it did. We're ready there, and generally they got very good at it. We didn't have that light on more than 20 to 40 seconds, but that's an eternity.
Yeah.
Eternity when they start stitching those red things up at you.
Totally.
In comes the fire. So anyway,
they have like the bullets have a glow to them, like when
they're on tracers.
Tracers.
Red tracers coming up. That's about one. There are
One
5 other bullets that aren't on that.
Right.
But that's so the bad guy or
every
the guy
fifth
see
bullet
when they're shooting at
we
night.
shot tracer. They shot tracer. They had green tracers and red, but mostly 95% of the time they'd gone over to red tracer. They're probably getting their ammo from at that time one of the Russian satellite countries, and we were probably getting ammo from them. Who knows where all this, but they had the same tracer. But anyway, tracers start coming up, and we're sitting there and we're waiting for this guy. And man, once we cut that white light on, you begin to sweat. I won't say you shook, but you were so tense you could snap your back, not because you fell, simply because you were so tense and snapped your back.
The heart rate starts going.
It seemed like an eternity.
You start thinking of your family at
home. Oh,
home.
God, you're thinking, and here come the red. Come on, call that.
Turn it off.
He's lost. And finally he gets there, and we must have had that light on for close to a minute and a half. You got to.
That's too long.
Now, the rule was you didn't have to keep it along for 2 minutes, but 2 minutes, who
2
kept
minutes
it
is
long?
long.
These guys
pushing it.
got pretty good. They didn't
Yeah,
want
yeah, right.
because they were under that white light when they dropped. Well, this guy finally made the drop, and we could finally cut it off. But I wanted to kill that son of a bitch. We all did. I mean, we kept that thing on. Now, we didn't get hit, but it's just an eye opener.
Yeah.
This isn't
Damn,
supposed
bro.
to happen.
Yeah. Dude, that's wild, man. Dude,
But that was a pretty easy one, but they get worse.
You remember when I asked you, like, did you question like some of these missions and stuff? Like, when do you, like, years later, like,
You didn't-
what was every? No,
I know
I'm
what
not talking
you're-
about the individual missions. I'm talking about like the whole reason why y'all went to Vietnam. Like, what was everyone's kind of like head at on like why the reason that you were there?
There were people, and me included, some that didn't think we ought to be there. And I didn't.
The country was split back home over that. Like,
it was
pretty much.
really bad, and that's made it very uncomfortable for all of us. And when they did that, Kent State or Fort Kent, whatever, when they killed the 4 students, 2 women and 2 guys or 3 guys, I don't know. They killed those 4 students. That was a bad day in Vietnam for all of us. Some said, well, we got to keep going. They ought to put those students in the airplane with us, you know. And then there were others that said, why are we doing this? You know, and
has it changed years later now that, like, I mean, you're
I don't know.
79. The reason why do you feel the way today, the way that you felt like when you were younger on the reason why? Do you think it was like right? And has your head or the way you thought about the way you think about Vietnam kind of changed as you get older and kind of see the way it played out and what's kind of surfaced on everything?
I'll give you an oxymoronic answer to that question. I feel both ways.
Yep.
I feel like, why in the world did we ever come out? Why weren't we there for 40 or 50 years? We could have owned that. We could have a buffer against Red China. We could be in control. But is that fair to the people? They've been a successful country with us gone and all that. So I feel like, well, we did the right thing when we pulled out and gave up and threw our arms in the air and left 59,000 Americans on the battlefield. You know, think of that.
That's a heavy one.
Think of that number. And the reason I say think of that, of all the wars we've been in, with the exception of 2, one was the Civil War when both sides counted as losses.
That's losses.
And that was close to 500,000. Not 500,000. Yeah, I don't know what the Civil War was. It's probably over 1 million that we lost. That's our bloodiest war.
500,000 on both sides, probably.
More than that, maybe even. But who knows for sure. They didn't have real good casualty reporting, especially on the south side. Then, and then the other war that took a lot, World War II, took 400 to 500,000. I'm not sure quite the number there, but that took a lot of people died fighting in World War II. Now,
how many did you say was Vietnam?
59,000. So it's nowhere near where World War II is. But let me put it in another perspective for you. Another big war we in was World War I. We lost less than 26,000 in World War I. We lost slightly over 26,000 in Korea. Those were the other 2 big wars that bounded World War II and now Vietnam. And so when you stop and say about that, other than World War II, and I won't say don't count the Civil War, but it doesn't, you know.
It was a little,
It's a unique, and it was terrible. But anyway, so really only World War II did we lose more Americans than we did. Also, we were the first to lose women in combat. That's not quite true. I think we lost some women in World War II and we lost some women there, but they weren't in combat positions. In Vietnam, it was primarily fell to the casualty nurses that would catch a rocket.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's an aside. I'm wandering around.
But that's why I like talking. I mean,
there are
the
no
reason,
answers.
I think the reason, but
there are no answers.
There is no. And there's 2 sides. You feel both ways about it.
You feel both ways. And we were over there in there, and that didn't perturb me in killing. It perturbed me that I might not survive. And every time I argued, I said, Fort Kent, those people died. We should get out of here. And I also thought, when I say we get out of here, me get out of here, you know? And so you can see, you don't know. And again, we're dumb soldiers, flyers, sailors, airmen. We do what we're told.
Yeah, Rusty, can we see the helmet maybe?
But I'll get to that helmet.
All right. Rusty's running the show here.
Yeah. See, he's not. He won't even let me push the map
No,
away.
Rusty, you come sit over here.
This is the first time that I really came close to dying. All right, we all this other crap, but we're up there one night and we've shot out. We had no bullets left and we had no flares left. That's not true. We had some bullets left, not a lot, but some, and we had no flares left. And the guy on the ground always wants light. No night vision goggles, wants light because now he wants to see where they're coming from, or if he can, he wants as much light so he can direct his ground firepower, and he knows blah, 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 blah. Light was more important than bullets. Over and over, I learned that. Light is
Who would have
more
thought that
important.
whole Air Force was over there to illuminate the jungle so the ground force could do what they needed?
That's not what...
I mean, but
that's not what the Air Force thought. That's what the guy on the ground thought.
Well, that's,
He wanted light.
Well, that was the most important. I mean, he said it was more important than bullets.
Light saved lives for him. And light could tell him where to be prepared.
And those were all flares that you would shoot that were like...
Flares.
And
we
not
had
not that white.
Not the white. We tried not to use that again.
Yeah, right.
We would think of reasons not to put that white light on.
Yeah, at least flares that shoots and then you're still in the darkness.
So we are out of flares. So there's a place on here. Is that put my damn glasses down. There's a place called...
The attention to detail.
Kontum had an artillery emplacement. Its rounds could reach up here to Dak Siang and whatnot and provide. And here's what the guy on the ground didn't want artillery support. He wanted flares, and they could shoot the flares up. 26 clicks. That's a pretty good way to shoot a flare. So we're up there, and they didn't want to release us because they wanted us over there in case the flares showed the bad guy was at point A, point B, trying to get them. So they said, can you stay? And we said, sure. And he said, but we're out of flares. And he says, no problem. We're going to fire the flares out of artillery at Kontum. So boom, flare would go off. We kept circling. Oh, yeah. Do you see anything? Shadow the guy on the ground. Nah, negative. We don't see anything. Okay. And the flares kept coming. And the flare lasts about 2.5 minutes. And then you got to shoot another one. Mm-hmm. So this is not exactly eternity. And they're shooting and shooting and shooting. And we're sitting there and nothing, this is boring. They're not going to attack. All of a sudden, we hear this, bam! And I look up, and actually I'm sitting in the window, and I look back, because the sound came from up there. There was a plexiglass thing, a bubble, on the top of the airplane, right above where my desk was. But I'm in the window, so I look back, and I see it, and it shatters. The next thing I hear is bang, bang, bang. It's bopping down the fuselage of the airplane. It hits right up here, goes right between the engines, and bops on top of this fuselage. And then the flare. That's what we now know it was. We didn't know what it was when it's going bang, bang, bang. We didn't know if we were under fire. What the hell was this, And then all of a sudden, and we're at about 2,000 feet, maybe a little higher because we weren't shooting, so we were probably up. And the next thing we know, that airplane boom, pulls down like this. Now, we only got we pulled that thing out, or the pilot did. We pulled that airplane out at about 800 feet, somewhere in there. And I thought, oh, shit. And the pilot's trying, I don't know if I have control. I can't get control. Declare an emergency. And I said, do you want to go to Pleiku? We could have tried to crash land there. And he says, no, let's go back to here. And so we start going through here. Now, I'm on a different chart. And I don't have that chart. But anyway, no, I didn't do it on this chart. But every one of these mountain peaks, I put a little red square around.
I saw it with the altitude. And that was in case exactly what's happening. You want to know where those fucking hills were. Yeah. And you wanted to trust.
Yeah. They'll kill you quicker than the guy on the ground will. So...
so you didn't trust not just trust your instruments, but double check.
Well, it's hard to write. We're dead reckoning. We're just heading on a compass heading back as straight as we can. It's hard to get any fix. You can't see the ground.
By the skin of your teeth, too. You're limping back.
And we're limping back, and we're going along, and the pilot says, give me a heading directly to the base. And I said, okay, you don't want to go down. We always came down over Pleiku, and then... Here's
Yeah.
the base we're trying to get to, and here's point
Ru-
three, and here's the target area. Sorry.
Okay.
And we wanted to come this way. That's the way we always went up and down.
Yeah, you had to go straight.
This time we had to come across here. All right, so we're flying back over there, and whew, hearts are pounding. We don't know if we can keep the airplane in the air, and the pilot was having a hard time. The plane kept jogging and pulling, and because what had happened, the flare had gone around and wrapped around the tail. I don't have a picture of it. Where's that? I thought you had it.
Yeah, but
Anyway, the tail it's not like in an airplane where the tail looks like that. Our tails were out like this. It was a double.
Yeah, I know, like a field goal.
Like in a Constellation aircraft, like a field goal.
Yep.
And so it wraps around the center part of that. And that's what pulled us and turned us, because that controls how you climb in altitude and whatnot. And now the pilot's trying to hold it.
Was it y'all's flare or some other flare?
It was out of Khartoum. It was an Army flare that they were shooting up.
Okay.
And we hit that flare. It didn't ignite.
You better get hit from the bottom on a flare. If the pilot hits a flare from the top, that's like hitting a parked car, kind of like.
It goes up. It goes up, and the parachute opens. They came down on a little parachute.
I got you.
That's why they stayed in the air for two minutes.
Okay.
And it starts coming down, and bam, it hits us. Bang down, wraps around that tail, and we pull it down. The pilot's going, and there you go. Here comes Lieutenant Napier. Take a heading of such and such and such and such. And the pilot even said, "Is that clear of terrain?" And I looked closely, and I said, and I've got little reds. You didn't have lights in the cockpit when you were flying combat. Why? Because the guy on the ground can shoot you.
Yeah, see any type of glow.
And so we had the little tiny lights. And
3,100 feet.
and they were red, and I'm shining on there. And I said, "Yeah, pilot, I think you're cleared." And not only that, now rain starts coming in, and we're down at 800 feet or so, and we're going streaming back and all this, and all of a sudden lightning burst, and there, right in front of the fucking nose of the airplane, is a fucking 4,000-foot mountain. And now we don't
And
have
you only saw it because of the lightning flash?
Yes, and the pilot jerks that thing to the right, and we didn't know if we could go right because it had been pulling us like that. And he jerks it to the right, and we missed that mountain. And the pilot says, "I take it you missed that, Nav." He says, "Confirm that the rest of the way in we won't have that happen again."
So you were just you were probably off on like 5.
Here's the hero, Lieutenant Napier, thinking, "Fuck, I'm an idiot.
Yeah.
I almost killed us."
No, 100%. Dude, they got that lightning flicker, huh?
So that we get back and we're coming into the base and we're screaming, "Emergency, emergency," and it's getting worse. That thing is wrapped around there and slamming, and we don't know if it's going to rip.
Pretty much have a pilot chute. But
that's it. The pilot chute was wrapped, and the flare is about this big and about that height, and the flare weighed, I don't know, 7 or 8 pounds or more than that, and it's bang, bang. And we don't know if it's going to ignite. Well, if it ignites and burns at, 700 Fahrenheit, 2,000 Fahrenheit, you're going to take the tail off in seconds. And so, bang, bang, bang. And we're coming in, and we get back here to Phuket, and we tell them what we got. We're declaring an emergency. We're inbound so many minutes and blah, 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 blah to the field. And then we heard this, "Hey, Shadow, go into an orbit. We want to put a chase plane up and see if it's safe for you to land the airplane." I'll never forget the pilot. The pilot says, "Fuck no, we're putting this airplane on the ground. We're coming in an emergency. Do you understand? Here I come."
Just landed. That's
wow.
good.
Bless his heart.
Dude, you gotta tell them how it is sometimes.
Bless his heart.
Let's get a plane up in the air and then do a practice to see if you get that.
Well, they wanted to see.
Right, yeah.
They wanted to make a decision or help, that, no, you're not
I think
going to land.
emergency landing means emergency
Well, yeah,
landing.
but in fairness, they didn't, if it's going to kill you when you come in and you can't control the airplane and you crash, they don't want you to do that. They'd rather you bail out,
Yeah.
But the pilot said, "We ain't giving them that decision. I'm coming in." And we banged into the runway, bang,
with
bang,
a flare,
bang.
with a flare still
Bang.
burning
Oh,
behind
yeah,
it.
it's
Dude.
now banging along as we're taxiing in, and we kind of slowed down. We didn't even get off the runway. We just jumped out of the airplane. We didn't know what was going to happen. Well, it never ignited, and it's torn that tail apart, but the tail held, and there we are. We're on the ground.
Lucky it wrapped up around. And
Now, here's the sad part of this story. That's the first of the 3 crashes that I had to make. That's called a crash landing.
Yeah.
There's A, B, and C. And I can't remember now whether C was the worst one or A was the worst one. But anyway, That was called, it was called let's see, which one was that? Yeah, that was called one of the lighter ones. It was the lightest thing because the airplane was still on its wheels and all that. So anyway, that was the first time that happened to me. That battle raged on for some time, and finally it dissipated. And after about 30 or 40 days, shot a lot of rounds up there and everything. So we're back at Phuket, and we're flying. And I remember we were flying that night, and but could steal time off. There was a movie that we all wanted to see, and we get a movie once every week, and they'd show it in a theater. They actually had in a tent set up, and they could put quite a few seats in there. And we want to go see that movie, and I get in line to get my ticket, and there's a tiny little box office, narrow little thing. It's a little structure, a wooden structure.
Is this the intro to your second crash landing?
No.
Okay.
but it's going to lead to the rest of my story. So I get to that window in the movie thing, and I got my money up there. It cost us 50 cents or $1. Nothing to go. It was nothing to go. And it's MASH is the movie, and we all want to see this movie. And they'd had to hurry to get it over there because it's still playing in the States, and so, but everybody over there wanted to see MASH. I mean, can you imagine? We're all in combat. We're seeing the same things the movie was about, and
you're in it. You're living it.
So I get to the window, and the phone goes off. It's amazing how these things happen. And the phone goes off, and the guy picks it up, and he says, movie theater, private, or Sergeant so-and-so, what can I do for you? And the guy says, and I see this look, I can't find one guy. We don't have a loudspeaker in here. And he says, you got to find this. I didn't know what he was saying, but I can't do that. I can't do that is all I heard. And the guy and the guy on the other end keeps yelling, and the guy puts the phone out of here, and he says, anybody back there know a Lieutenant Napier? I'm standing right there. And he says, they want him at the squadron immediately. And I said, what? I want to see MASH. I never saw MASH till I got back to the States.
Because of that phone call?
That phone call. So I go running back, and this starts the second half.
I knew it was a good intro to the second.
That's good stuff. I knew it was coming.
And I get back down there, and they said, prepare to go to Saigon. You're going to fly out into Cambodia. We got a problem down there. So we get up there, we go down there and fly for about 3 weeks. And that was when it was all hush hush. Nobody was supposed to know we were so far across. The Army and even the Air Force more than the Army, would get out into this portion of Cambodia, but just across the border in the fishhook and down closer to Saigon is where the actions was. But even we didn't go very far into Cambodia ever because it was a neutral country and all that kind of crap. But now things were breaking, and they wanted gunships to go out there and help the Cambodian army. The Khmer Rouge were coming at them. So we went out there for about 3 weeks. Then we came back up here to Phuket thinking, okay. But that's when the security police took a shower with you. They came with their guns and stood outside your gang shower, and there you go. You gotta take a shower, and there you go. They put us
with an AK-47.
No, with an M16.
M16, just
a guard right there.
AK-47 were the bad guys.
That was the other side.
And so that's kind of peculiar.
Yeah, that's definitely.
And it was really upsetting. Now here's the way Vietnam works. It's not the combat that's so peculiar. It's the circumstances. Okay, every one of us had one. Sometimes she serviced 3 guys. I don't mean sexually. I mean took care of the rooms, get your beds done, and they would cook their meals at the end of the shower because there were drains and all that, and they'd cook Nook Mom, this smelly old thing, and that was, and there would be the ladies. They'd take their lunch hour, all of them that in these buildings, and there'd be one latrine for about 5 different stretches of rooms. And so they're all in there, and the shower was Indian open, and at one end were the ladies. So eventually, the first time you did it, it was a little upsetting, but after a while you knew, okay, the girls were going to be down there watching you take a shower. Actually, they were eating. But we would always tell the new guys when they would come in, did you see what did you do? I didn't see anything. Yeah, didn't you see them make those motions and suggestions? What are you talking about? Well, most of them were going like that. And the guy would say, what are you talking about? He says, "That's the length of your dick, you idiot." So that was the way we treat every new guy that got down there. So now we go back up here, and I get my last mission up to here, and it's a normal mission. Nothing's happening. And now we're coming back, and bam, we're coming down this time, down the safe mountain and coming back. And all of a sudden, the right engine breaks into flames. Flames go shooting back out about 500 feet behind the airplane. And the pilot's saying, "Well, what do you think? Can we make?" And I'm saying, "Well, you fucker, you got to know whether we can make this or not. You're looking at the temperature gauges and all that." And both the co-pilot and I say, "I think we ought to emergency land at Pleiku. Who wants to fly with fire coming out your engine?"
And sounds like a dicey roll.
And we tried to extinguish it, and we couldn't get it extinguished. The next thing is you can shut down the engine, maybe, but usually you can. But no. He decided, we're going in. Let's keep it turning. And we slide through the runway here at Pleiku, go out into a minefield, okay? Because we're coming in hot and hot, literally hot. But when I say hot, that's high speed. Because we're making sure that engine we want speed because slowness kills you. You know, so we're coming in and it won't let you fly. And so we're coming in, we go through and we're out in the dirt, out in the end of the runway. I think we hit one of the landing lights that's out there. It didn't hit it bad, but it did some damage on the tip of the wing or something. And we're out there, and we're all sitting, oh, God damn, glad we're on the ground. And then we hear this from Tower. It says, Shadow 9-7, whatever we were that night. It says, "Do not exit the aircraft. You are in a minefield." Oh,
the engine's on fire. You can't get out.
Like the engine's out there smoking. The engine's out there smoking. They can't get a fire engine to us. And they want us to sit here, watch this engine on fire out there. We don't know if it might explode or anything.
Yeah.
Now, it's not on fire as bad as when we were flying because it's not getting the air.
Yeah, the oxygen,
So but it's still out there burning. And
how long do you have to sit there for?
I'll tell you how it worked. We're sitting there and we're shaking our heads. All of us. There were 4 officers on the flight deck, 1 officer down below, and then a bunch of the enlisted guy. The most junior enlisted guy on the thing, and I was sitting. I don't know. Anyway, I was up there, and he reaches up on the flight deck and tugs on the leg of my flight suit. And I turned around, and he says, "I said yes," and he says, "Sir, why don't you all come with me? I'll tell you how we can get out of this airplane." We looked at him and, "What do you mean? We can't leave the airplane. We're in a minefield." And he says, "Come with me, sir. I know how to get us through the minefield." And we're all thinking, we got a burning engine over here. That engine might explode, blah, blah, blah. And we said, "We're following you, airman."
Following you is the key word.
That's the key word. And so we get out, and he jumps out, and he's got his sand. And we all had that same little light, and he's shining it. And we're all climbing down. We don't know where to, shit. And we're going out anyway. So we're out and we're tiptoeing around and he turns back and he says, "You don't need to tiptoe. You need to run. Follow me." And we said, "Well, we're in a minefield." He says, "No, I'm going right down where our tracks led."
All right.
It didn't set off on a mine when we came in. It won't set out a mine when we go out.
So you just had to get back to the back of the plane to the tire tracks.
We had to have the most junior ranking guy on the
tell you the most like basic kind of like thing.
Tell the 5 officers on the flight deck or 4.
Follow the tire trails, you dummy.
As I've said, combat creates situations that you would never anticipate or think about.
Damn.
Here are the 5 officers frozen and not knowing how to get out of that. And, as it turned out, the engine wasn't even in bad shape. They fixed the engine.
Fire's fire.
But it also turned out we weren't really in a minefield, but the idiot in the tower said we were.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Better to be careful. Be too careful.
Yeah. So I go back and I'm thinking, oh God. And we get back, we fly caribou back there. They go in, fish the airplane out a day or 2 later. And when I get back, they said, "Pack your bag." And I packed my bag. They said, "You're going down to Saigon. You're being moved down there." This was the 3rd base I'd been at. I was at Tuiwa for a while, and then I was at Phuket, where most of these stories have come from. Now I'm going down to Saigon. There's the fish hook. I'm sorry, that's the parrot's beak, and this is the fish hook over here. See how it makes kind of that?
Yeah.
And those were inroads that the communists used the NVA used to get to supply
That's
all
cool.
that. So anyway,
Yeah,
Now you want another break.
You got some good crash. You got some good crash landing stories, man.
I got one more.
No,
I did.
it's
Let's
good.
do it. Let's. Can we get that helmet up and kind of see it?
Come on, let's
Come on,
get a
Rusty.
little.
I'll do the last one. We fly.
No,
I
it just
promise you.
starts out.
The reason it's important to the people that flew. We go into Cambodia. We're doing a lot of shooting out there, and we're doing two things. And two things happen out there, and I'll be really quick. And one, we lost an engine, and then we had a runaway prop, and we land over here at a place called Phnom Penh. That's the capital of Cambodia. And we come in, and then we're declaring emergency, screaming, shitting all over ourselves, thinking. And then all of a sudden, we're at about 500 feet, and all of a sudden, maybe less than 500 feet, maybe 400, it got real quiet. The other engine stopped. Now we got no engines turning on an airplane. That is not good.
What's your altitude?
500 feet. We're below 500 feet. We're almost on the runway, and we land on the runway at Phnom Penh, bounce around, barely get up to the runway. We get out of that airplane. The engineer's hand is broken because he was trying to get power the whole time. He couldn't get it back. He had his hand on the throttles, and it hit and busted.
Yeah.
It busted his hand. So he's hurt, but he's the only one hurt. The rest of us are just sore. I mean, that airplane hit so fucking hard.
Yeah.
The left landing gear collapses, and we're down there on the ground, but we're all out now. And everybody's saying, get to the nav. He's got all the secrets. Well, I did carry all the secrets of who we had to talk to, secret things on the ground, blah, 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 blah. So we're on the ground, and all of a sudden, this guy shows up in short pants, a cowboy hat, and a little star that came out of a Rice Krispie. And he's the security police at Phnom Penh. And we're talking to him. He says, come on, get in my truck. We all start to get in the truck, and all hell breaks loose. It starts exploding. The Khmer Rouge.
The truck does?
No. The end of the runway starts exploding of the end of the runway. Now, it's out a half a click or a click. And it's the ammo dump has been sappered by the Khmer Rouge off the end of the runway. The friendly ammo dump has been sappered with all their munitions and stuff that the Cambodian Air Force was using. So we run and jump into a ditch off the side of the airplane. And this was the worst combat experience I ever had. We jump into that ditch. It's a benjo ditch. That's a sewage ditch.
Oh.
And for an hour and a half, we stayed in that fucking sewage ditch.
Oh, man.
And you had no desire to get out, but you had no desire to stay there.
Oh yeah, that's good.
Well,
Eventually, we got picked up. We got blah 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 blah, and I got rid of that uniform.
Yeah,
and,
that's a shitty situation.
Now, and I'll finish on this last story, and it's
I thought that was it.
no.
I thought we still have spin to wins.
We
Just-
got a lot of stuff we want to ask you. We got some.
You can do that, but last
Okay.
story. All right, this is the third and final. This is
Appreciate y'all sticking around. Y'all.
Yeah.
This is the worst one. We're over on a target over in Cambodia. Prado Tung was the target. And we're watching bigger gunships. The AC-130 come in and try to hammer this position. And we'd shot that position before. The Cambodian War was both stalemate and then movement, mostly movement by the bad guy. But anyway, this position we'd worked and shot for it. So we knew where the Khmer Rouge, the red communists, had their gun position. It was in a river. River came down anyway, and the river was near the Mekong, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
So we're there, and we watched this AC-130 shoot it with 40 millimeter, which was a big gun for us in the gunship business, and he kept shooting it, but the guy on the ground says, you're not getting it, you're not hitting it, you're not hitting it, you're missing it. And finally, the AC-130 calls to us. We're just watching this. And he calls to us, and he says, Shadow, do you know where that target is? And we said, yeah, we know where it is. We've shot it before. We know where they want the rounds. And he says, come on in. And he says, then we're going to get off and let you just spray it. I think they just want to withdraw their troops. So we put on 2 or 3 guns, and we go rolling in. Sure enough, we roll into the target. We make one circle around it, and we're still shooting, and we come around, and all of a sudden, I have never seen more tracer come up. And not only is it coming up, it's going through the airplane. Guys on the back are screaming, and it says, it's coming through. It's hitting us. Oh, my God, one went into the ammo. Didn't set it off and all this, and we're getting hit. We're all screaming, and I'm screaming, break, and he ain't responding. Pilot ain't doing nothing. He keeps shooting. He's got his finger on the thing, and And I'm screaming. And we got the IO, the illuminator operator, has jumped up on the flight deck. Sir, the bullets are. He rips off. Anyway, so I'm on this ammo can, sitting. Anyway, I'm up and out the window looking. I got this big microphone that I use because it could help you talk without interference of the engine noise and all that. That's how I work the targets, because I always worked the guy on the ground we were shooting for. Anyway, so. Anyway, and I'm making this sound like it took forever, but it's very short. But you can't imagine how many rounds are coming up. What had happened is they put in an additional, that you always ran into 3 guns when you were in trouble. They're triangulated so that they can move their fire in a mandated way to get to the airplane. And these guys had seen gunships for some time, so they knew now what to do. And they had 2, not only 3 guns, but another 3 guns. So they had approximately 6, maybe 8. I don't know for sure how many they had, but I couldn't see anything but red out the window.
It's tracer bullets flying.
Tracers coming by. Remember, there's 1 out of 5. I don't know where those other 5 are coming. Well, some of them are coming in the airplane. We actually got hit 26 times. Bullets came through the airplane. But the pilot's not doing anything. And I'm yelling, brake, brake, brake. So I look up, and he's in there, and he's doing this, and I flip over, and I go to call. It's where you can override everything on your interphone. And I go over there, and I scream at him, and still nothing happens. So I go over, and I move over to him, and he's focused on this. Keep doing it, and we're getting now. This is happening in real time. Mm-hmm. This is like 15 seconds at the most, maybe 20. And I go over, and I shake him, and I take this thing. This is a pretty big thing with a handle on it, and I hit him as fucking hard as I can across the head. I knock him. I knock him crazy. And
what happened? Did he get shot?
No, he had cut off his interphone. It was his first real combat mission after checkout, and he couldn't handle all of the traffic. You had about 5 different interphone systems, and the pilot's supposed to monitor them all. He was having trouble. He didn't mean to shut them all down, but he hit the wrong switch on his interphone panel. You make these, again, it only how could this happen? Yeah. And so I hit him as hard as I can, and I scream at him, brake right. Now, one error, you get another error. Now we were in a position where braking right, guess what it did? Brought us right back across those fucking guns. And we brake, and now we come down, and they're still firing away.
I would have been mad as shit at this dude.
Well, yeah, it happens.
Yeah.
But it sounds like he's in charge of a lot of lives that he's just parading around.
All right, you want to go on elsewhere. There is one other one.
No, Rusty. We're going to get you back on the podcast and get that done.
All right. But I go streaking across the cockpit one night. I went up and across the cockpit, came down on the other side of the co-pilot, upside down, my legs wrapped around the co-pilot. I got blown across. The airplane had been had crawled over a recce rifle on the ground.
So
they were hitting Cambodian trucks.
So many different things. The lingo.
And the airplane blew me over and across. And that was the most exciting moment in my Air Force career. I for one moment, I'm sitting on a can directing fire, and the next moment, I'm upside down with my legs around the co-pilot's throat. I went across and up and over the cockpit.
That's crazy.
Can we see that? Can we see your? Can we see?
Can we bring the helmet up, Neil? There it is.
I mean.
All right.
It's finally letting us get to the helmet.
All right.
What is this?
This is my flight helmet that I actually wore in Vietnam. Now, you'll notice there's no. We flew at night, so they didn't give us a dark glass plate. Most helmets have a dark glass plate. We just got this, and that was why. And mostly we didn't fly with it down anyway. We flew with it up. All right.
Like, you got your headphones in there, a little bit of padding, not a lot of padding.
There's very little padding.
Jankiest styrofoam in here.
Right. Well, it's a little better in those days. But anyway, they're there. Now, what else do you notice about the backside of that helmet? See something?
A lot of scratches.
A lot of scratches.
Some gin mistakes.
I get and fly my last mission, and I get done, and my God, I'm done.
You're not sneaking in another Vietnam story. I see what you're doing here.
No, I'm talking about this helmet.
All right.
And I'm done.
Okay.
And you were done theoretically 3 days. And that allowed you to pack up, get on, and they'd get you on an airplane out of Saigon to someplace. And I'm doing my thing. It took me, they give you 3 days to out process and all that. I got it done in about 45 minutes. Well, I'd been doing it for the last month or so, and I wanted home. And so I'm doing that, and then I get a call, and I go down to the squadron. I think I had 3 more days. I'd gone through the first day of no more flying. I'd ought to have been squirt. When you did your last mission, they squirted you down with a hose and put beer on your head.
Yeah. Cracked a champagne bottle on the back of it.
We didn't have no champagne. So you got beer and all this, and you went in and got drunk, and I did all that. Well, the next morning I wake up, and I'm getting my stuff together, and a guy comes up to the room and says, "You got to report to the flight officer, the scheduling officer." So I go down there, and I said, "Yeah, Colonel." And he says, "I got some bad news for you." And I said, "Bad news? Not a good sign." He says, "You're going to have to fly one more mission." And I said, "You got to be out of your mind. I'm done, sir. I've been squirted." He says, "Yeah, but you got one more day, and anyway, blah, 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 blah."
Yeah.
And I said, "Well, sir, I don't think I'm going to do this." And he says, "Yes, you are." And I said, "Oh, God." So he says, "Go get your helmet. Go get your, And so I went in. My helmet's on the rack back there, and I picked my helmet up. And the first thing I noticed, it's not the same color that it was. It's now green and black, and it used to be brown and green and white, and different camouflage schemes and all this. And I'm looking at this, and I'm thinking, God damn it, I'm going to fly my last mission I'm bewitched. I'm going to die. That's really the thought that went in. I start trembling.
Because your hands.
All these, I take my dividers that I plotted on charts, and I start scraping this thing. And I didn't get very far because the poor old airman in the survival where he had to take care of all these things was going running into he says, I got a shrieking lieutenant back here. He's damaging his helmet. And the colonel comes out, and I'm
Why were you scraping it?
I didn't want it this fucking color on my last
So you're
mission.
going to scrape off the whole color
I
of
didn't
this.
care. I wasn't flying in this helmet. I didn't care. I wanted my helmet. Now, yes, it wasn't reasonable. And I'm sitting there and tears are coming down. I'm crying. This is going to kill me. So anyway, they pull that out, and the colonel lectured me some more. I was staffed out to the airplane. I've sat in that NOS window and didn't say a word. Didn't say anything.
Yeah.
I just sat there scared to death. The only time I was really terrified was that last mission.
Yeah.
The mission landed uneventful, and 2 more
Got
days
the
later,
hell out
Get
of
this
there.
boy
I'm on
home.
the way home.
Get him back at homestead and play some golf.
I know you didn't want to hear all that, but it's
No,
good.
we wanted to
we
hear it.
appreciate
It's
it,
just-
Rusty, and we appreciate your service and all that you do. 100%, man. Like,
I'm no different than a lot of the other boys.
well, there's a
that
lot
were-
of people.
sure.
Yeah, I mean,
Everybody there, we appreciate everything that went down and everything that you guys.
yeah. Remember Veterans Day, Memorial Day, like 4th of July. Remember the reason why you're celebrating that shit. It's because a lot of people who are a lot braver than us have that. Well, I mean, straight up that you go over there and you.
Word. I saw-
There's a lot of people that.
I saw guys be very brave on missions, do amazing things, force the rest of the crew to keep working while the airplane was getting the shit shot out of it.
You know,
3 months later, he's flying another mission and he freezes at the controls. We can't get him to move.
well, I mean, that's. I mean,
Now,
everyone has.
it's
Everyone.
it's a delayed fuse. He's been thinking about it.
Yeah.
And at the time, he's a hero, gets a Silver Star for what he did to save the airplane and save the guy on the ground. 3 months later,
You're freezing.
he's frozen.
Yeah.
Think about it. Combat is unpredictable. It's
sure.
unpredictable in how it lays out. It's unpredictable how it
And how you're going to
unfolds,
react to it too.
and how you're going to
Everyone
react.
everyone
And it's
reacts.
unpredictable how you're going to react 6 months later to what you did.
Right. Damn, man. That's
But that's
Such a
the
wild
story
one.
of the
Story of
helmet.
the
That
helmet.
was my helmet in Vietnam.
No, it's pretty.
those
It's
scratch
very
marks-
impressive. It's
Those scratch marks are not the scratch marks of a hero.
that's
a
a scared
terrified
individual.
That's a terrified
Lieutenant
coward.
Napier. That's pretty sick. We'll take a picture and post that up on there.
Yeah.
Seemed like a good little segue to do a little spin to win. Should we do a little spin to win? Shane?
Yeah,
You
I
got
like
the-
it. I
And
like it. What do we
Rusty,
got?
this is like where some of the Patreon subscribers, the top shelf members, they all support the podcast, and every episode we put their name on a wheel, and we're going to spin it, and then we give away all these prizes. Some sick prizes this time. We are giving away, Shane, you're giving away a melon hat.
Yeah, we got
the one on your head, or you have a freshie at the house?
This is my bro stock hat, so I'll probably keep this one. But I got a freshie at the house. Some nice.
So we're gonna do
canvas,
a
leather
good melon
ones or
hat. So thank you, Melon, for giving that, and thanks to Puffin, little koozies right here. They're little life jacket koozies. How much better than these things get? Always wear your life jacket. Isn't that right, Rusty? Even as a pilot, you wear life jackets, huh?
No, we didn't. We sat on them.
You sat on them?
We sat on our flak vest. We didn't want to get our balls blown off.
Seriously.
Fair that's what we did.
All right.
Yeah,
So,
all right. So we got the spin here. We got the spin to win. We got about 50 plus people on here. So we're going to go ahead and spin that right now.
big shout out to Puffin for and Melon giving away the gifts right now. And the winner is Shane. Call it out.
Robbie Allen.
Robbie Allen just won back-to-back wins. Does this thing?
He got what? He won like 3 or 4 episodes. He won the Gator Skull, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. There you go.
Robbie Allen,
Robbie's
see,
getting
back-to-back. He was actually asking me the other day. He was like, is my name still on the wheel after I won the Gator Skull? Because we just went over to Hunter's and did the Grab Matters Christmas collaboration. And so I dropped it off to him. So, man, dude, that Will loves some Robbie Allen. So congrats, Robbie, the captain, dude. You locking down a Puffin koozie and melon hat.
Melon hat, bang. There it is.
Well, dude, we've gotten into some nitty-gritty Vietnam stories with Rusty. We appreciate it, Rusty. And what I got some questions that I want to ask you. What do you think about all the new, like, the UAPs and all those sightings and stuff? This is kind of unidentified
phenomenon.
Yeah. But it's like UFOs. But like now they're saying there's been fighter pilots like that have been recorded seeing these things on their radar, doing things that are completely unpredictable, flying from 15,000 feet down to sea level and just moving in ways that aviation doesn't allow you to do. Like, you're a pilot and you've worked in the Pentagon, you've worked for the military and you're just, I trust your credibility on and I'm just interested to see what you think about these Tic Tacs flying, or do you, is it aliens? Is it China? What do you think about all this?
I'm not losing any sleep over them.
Well, I mean, you're working on.
Obviously, something's happened. I just don't think we have an explanation for it. Now, do I think that explanation is going to be a man from Mars or a man from Alpha Centauri 7 or wherever it is?
Right.
I don't think that's what's happening.
I don't really think
something's happening, and I don't think we maybe not understand the laws of, call it gravity, the laws of visual and all that. Something's happening, but we don't know it.
Do you think that it could be another superpower or someone testing some technology that we don't have? Do you think it's our technology? If it's not aliens and it's not another country, then it must be some deep.
I don't know. I don't think
it
so.
sounds like you do know the Pentagon.
No, I really don't. I'm not qualified to. I'm telling you, I'm not personally worried about it. I don't think the man from Mars.
You don't think that if, like, I mean, you're in the military, you don't think that if the enemy had some way of flying the way that they do and having this type of technology, you don't think that's alarming or alerting to
I don't think. I don't think you have to worry about that technology. Whatever's appearing or however it's appearing out there. And I don't think you have to worry about that being incorporated in any of our enemy's capabilities.
Right now, straight from the source right there.
Enough.
Can't argue with that. Damn, yeah.
I was hoping to go a little bit more in that. He's just not worried.
Not even worried about it. He's worried about it. He's worried about shooting his age right now.
It's not a concern for national defense.
I mean, they're doing congressional hearings and stuff about all this stuff and having.
They always have. It's not going to go anywhere.
They haven't always released
yes,
a lot.
They have. It's always been done. What did they think that the area where we did a lot of classified training out close to Las Vegas, out in that area, has always been.
Can't even say it.
Yeah, I don't care what it is. But nothing. I mean, it's a possibility. It is a fallout of something we're doing. And we're not going to ever tell you, okay? But I don't think it's anything. I think it's something that's on the edge of believability, but it's something to do with the natural laws of nature that are being bent, warped, or exceeded. I don't think, and I'm not sure what's causing it, but I don't think it's the man from Alpha Centauri.
No, you don't think that aliens would or UFOs or anything from out of this world would have some different ways of flying and changing the physics of the way we fly and that we don't understand yet?
Yes, that's a possibility, but I doubt it. I can't tell you 100%.
Yeah.
I'm not worried about it.
He hasn't watched enough sci-fi movies. You know, he's more
I'm
more
eight-
locked in on.
I'm
his
80 years old.
reality.
I'm not worried about that killing me in my lifetime.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
I'm going to miss a lot more putts that I'm worried about than I'm worried about the man from Alpha Centauri or wherever he's from.
That's good.
Well, there's a lot of conspiracies talk nowadays of do we go to the moon or not? Rusty, do you think we went to the moon?
Yes.
I'm with you.
Oh, yes, we
I'm
did.
with
I mean, what did we hit there? We landed 3-4 times
Six
on the moon?
times, yeah.
6 times? Yeah, we landed. There's no doubt about that.
That's why I think, like, if we fake the first one, that's why I think that we went, is because, like, if you fake the first one and you pull it off, why the hell do you try to do this 5 more times to try to pull this, the biggest trick that's ever been pulled on humanity, the biggest hoax? You're going to do it 5 more times after you just rubbed it in Russia's face? Like, it just doesn't make, like,
I always find it funny that it's never, I don't want to say intelligent people that knock the moon landing, but it's like anytime you hear from somebody of like very smart person, like that knows stuff, they're like, yeah, we definitely went. But it's always just like the YouTuber that just has watched enough videos and goes, I don't believe it, man. They're not fooling me. And
the
it's like
conspiracy
you
culture
don't-
is like it's pretty hot nowadays.
No, it is, but it's like, I mean, it's even like the same with the flat earthers. Like, it's
It's
never
not the
somebody,
same, yeah.
but it's never somebody that's like
No, there's a lot of,
credible and knowledgeable in this.
there's
situation.
becoming more and more people who believe that we didn't go to the moon.
Yeah, no,
by
there
the
are
day.
for sure.
And
But
like-
I'm saying that it's never.
And I watch both sides of it because I want to learn, like, and there are arguments for why we didn't, and some of the, not so much the physics of, like, do we
But
have
it's not
enough
like
gas?
it's not like ex NASA
or the radiation belt, or all, like, I just
Yeah, but it's not like ex NASA employees or like people of like, you know, significance being like, we didn't. I know we didn't. And I can't, like, I don't have the facts to prove
There's
it.
no
But it's like
people who
it's
truly
like,
believe that we didn't go. Like, there's no fact that you could tell them. Like, you can show them
Oh,
like images like that. India has a satellite going around really close to the moon that takes high res images of us. You can, like, literally see all of the moon landers, the sites that they are at, and the tracks of where Rusty is. This
Rusty's
just
falling asleep.
Rusty, is
here.
this just annoying to you that we're like arguing?
No,
like
I'm
we're
thinking
talking about?
the real question is, why did we stop going to the moon? Money. We had to fight a war in Vietnam.
Yeah.
We've had other things come on. And also, generally speaking, it's not a thing that Democratic governments do. And I don't mean I mean Democrat. Republicans are more inclined to do that, but now Republicans are so money focused that they're not going to spend the money to do that. And I believe that both sides gave up on it simply because of money issue.
Yeah.
And that's
Well, it seems like to go to the moon, or even let's say we're going to Mars now, it seems like it's got to be a 10, 15, 20, even a 20-year plan nowadays to go to the, and how many times are you going to vote in the same political party to where, like, the budgets change? So you almost need, like, I mean, you would need everyone on the same page, but it seems like no one's really on the same page nowadays. But you need long-term funding, which is why I think, like, you're going to see NASA it's not going to be funded by NASA. It's going to be funded private
That's what I'm
industry.
gonna
And that's
tell
why
you.
SpaceX.
That's
and
what's
Elon
happened.
And, like,
It's-
and I mean, that's how you're going to get consistent,
I agree.
long-term funding
I agree.
from the richest man in the world, I guess.
well,
Yeah.
if that doesn't break him.
Well, he ain't getting any younger.
But I don't mean his age. I mean his dollar amounts.
Well, he doesn't seem to be fluctuating
He
the
doesn't
wrong
seem-
direction right
He doesn't
now.
seem to have a problem with it. You're right.
I mean, SpaceX is about to go public for, like, the highest, like, the.
I hope it
like,
works. I hope it works.
Well, that's cool.
Well, man, should we wrap
we
this
should.
thing up, dude? That was
Yeah.
Oh, I could go on.
Oh, Rusty, I guarantee you, we'll have you back on. I'm sure there's going to be a lot more time. You come back
You
down here.
haven't heard of Panama. You haven't heard of the Balkans.
What else have we
You
missing?
haven't heard of Iraq.
Iraq. Damn, you served in all
Yeah.
that. Dude, Panama, Iraq. That's just the
Him-
ones that he
him
can
get in
I
Noriega?
I do. Yeah, you
I
taking
love
down
that.
Noriega.
I
I
want-
did. I remember. I remember when we were little. Rusty, you brought down a VHS tape, and like
Oh,
it was recorded footage of you flying in the first Gulf War, and it's like it looked like it was at night.
It was
Desert Storm,
Panama.
right?
Panama.
It looked like it was. I saw tracer bullets or something.
It was
Yeah.
Panama.
That was Panama.
That's cool.
Wow.
Yeah, there's more. There's
There's
more.
more
So if we,
stories out there.
Oh yeah,
so-
I'm more highly decorated from Panama than any of the other actions. And we
That's
lost
good,
an
so-
airplane on the last one in Desert Storm.
Well, there's definitely going to be a Rusty Napier, Uncle Rusty Napier part 2. You're going to get
Yeah.
you back on, Rusty.
I was pretty sure I'd weaned you off having me again. I
No,
mean,
no,
It was like
no.
if I just tell long enough stories and then keep them not talking, and I'll just run this whole podcast. They won't have me back. I won't have to
I'm
drive
gonna-
7 hours back down here whenever they want to do it again.
I'm taking control of this shit. We like it, Rusty.
Yeah.
You call the shots, man. You deserve it.
And for everybody that even did get to see the other uncle on the podcast, between Paul and then now having Uncle Rusty, it's just wanted to let you know it was great growing up with these two types of characters around, because we had everything from crazy
golf coach
Boniface to great golf coaches and but no, it's amazing. I love both of these
Rusty,
guys.
one quick tip before we get out of here. One quick tip for Shane golfing. What's a tip for Shane
for
golfing?
Shane?
Yeah.
I would say in about a week, quit and don't do it again.
Hey, I like that one.
I got a
Dude, I
skins
like
game
that.
tomorrow morning. What about that? Give me a tip for within 1 week. What do I need to work on to get a skin tomorrow?
Don't fuck up.
You want to know the truth? I think you should work on your right hand grip. It's a little bit too strong.
Too powered.
It's too open, right? I need to get it more on top. I've been trying to work on that.
Show
Been
more,
actually
show
trying
more
to-
knuckles.
Yeah, I do this and I need to be here.
Yeah, you're more like
Yeah, I'm more here and
this
it
hand
needs to be.
is this hand is very good or good enough.
Yeah.
But this hand tends to do this and it
Yeah.
wobbles, and you really want that hand there.
Locked. All right, good. I like it. There's a good tip for me to focus on the range tomorrow morning before I go take some skins from these boys.
All right, everyone. Well, if you're still listening, like, subscribe to the channel. Thank you all the Patreon members getting behind the podcast. It really means a lot and keeps us going at this moment. Big shout out to Puffin for sending us some koozies, and Melon giving away the hat. Congrats to Robbie Allen and Rusty. You're the man, dude. We love you. Seriously, thank you for everything you've done, not just for the family, but for
He's going to try to get into another story.
He's going to try to get into that.
I was going to get that.
No,
Are we off?
no, we're about to be off. Hey, but
off.
we just want to let's shut this shit down. All right, y'all. Episode 24 in the books. Love y'all. You.